Hi, welcome to H.Y.S.T. I'm Bradley Hackworth. With me is Jonathan Ems. This week, we are covering Freeway, written and directed by Matthew Bright and starring Kiefer Sutherland and Reese Witherspoon.
I noticed, and I'm excited about this for you, because in all of the previous episodes, the movie that you've assigned me was the one that we did first. And I noticed you have preemptively put yours first. I'm assuming because you've got some shit to say that you cannot wait, right?
Twofold. One, yes, I do have some things I do want to say, and I am excited for it. Two, yeah, the other 3 weeks, it has been the other movie first, so I figured we'd toss that up. And this is the first week that you've actually enjoyed the movie I've given you, so I figured we can throw a little bit of time on that.
Okay, all right. I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy the other movies. They just weren't as,
Let me put it this way. When, like, in the future of doc time, are you ever going to go back and watch Lightning Jack, A Low Down Dirty Shame, or, oh crap, I forgot what I was last week. Dutch, yeah.
Yeah. No, probably not.
Will you ever go and watch The Bone Collector again?
Maybe. If I find somebody else who...
Even if it's a maybe, it's still more than what it has been.
Yeah. If I find somebody else out there who has not seen it yet, then I will definitely watch it with them, for sure.
I sat down to watch it again this week, and it's been years since I've watched it, and I kind of regret the fact that it's been years that since I've watched it, but at the same time, sitting down to watch it after it's been years, there were things that I didn't remember, and I'm glad that I got to have them hit me again for the first time. But that is the second part of the show. Let's do this one first.
Okay.
So like I said, written and directed by Matthew Bright. So Matthew Bright, what a tragedy. And studio executives completely did it. Matthew Bright released 2002's Ted Bundy. Do you remember that movie?
Vaguely, yes. Yeah.
That was I remember that as a pretty decent telling of Ted Bundy. Super low rated. Don't know why. But he also, in the same year, made a movie called Tiptoes. Are you familiar with this movie?
No, I have not heard of that one.
And I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to give it any credit or any respect or anything like that. Because the original cut of the movie was an hour and 50 minutes, or 150 minutes, and the released cut is only 90 minutes. And
Jesus.
it really dives into the life and what it's like to live as a little person, or dwarf. Is it little person? Is that?
I think it's little person.
Okay. And Peter Dinklage was one of the stars of this movie. Matthew McConaughey, like it's a really good cast. And Peter Dinklage said that they completely ruined the movie. And after the studio executives cut it down to 90 minutes, Matthew Bright never directed another movie again.
Wow.
Apparently this movie, Tiptoes, should have been an amazing movie that probably would have stood the test of time. Absolutely. Because from what I understand in reading about it, Matthew Bright was ahead of his time. And not like 100 years ahead of a time or anything, but only like 20 years. Like he barely missed the mark. Because a movie like that being made, even in the last decade, would have been wildly celebrated.
Yeah.
So I just, man, I feel bad for this guy for doing his stuff, and at the time that he tried to do it.
Well, and this was, what year was this again, you said?
2002.
2002. So, yeah,
I think he missed it by one decade.
Yeah, Dinklage is still, a lesser-known name at this point, so... Yeah.
But also, early performance of Dinklage, I kind of want to watch it, but even Dinklage says that it's a terrible movie. So it's do I really want to give the studio more money for screwing over all these performances and the writing and all of this? I kind of want we have the Snyder cut. Now I want to get the brighter cut. The opening credits to this movie.
I seem to recall mentioning asking that you not mention the Snyder cut in my presence. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
If you did, I apologize. I don't remember. I am sorry. But I just saw a meme the other day that was Snyder saying that, what was it? one of his older movies. He's like, we have the footage. We just need a little bit of funding from the fans, and then we can get this movie made. And then somebody replied, "Dude, just make your movie right the first fucking time."
Yeah.
No, like, apparently this is, I looked at it, I was like, yes, I want to give you my money for the movie theater and maybe buy the Blu-ray. I only want to give you my money max twice. Get your shit together, dude.
Well, I mean, you heard he did that with Rebel Moon again too, right?
Is that what it was? Was it Rebel Moon?
I don't know if it's Rebel Moon that he's doing the funding for.
I thought it was like Sucker Punch. I think that's what it was.
Okay, sure, yeah. But yeah, no, he also said the same, that there's a second cut of Rebel Moon out there that's like an extra like 30 minutes or something like that. And it's like, dude, this motherfucker's gonna make a living out of selling us the same movie like 4 or 5 times. He's gonna become the Bethesda of filmmakers. That's who he wants to be.
I see it. I'm really annoyed by it, and
I've waited 3 days to make that joke. Thank you for this.
This is your weekly outlet. There you go.
Yeah.
The opening sequence, as we're going through this, I really enjoyed the music to that. And when I saw who did the music, who did the score for this, obviously Danny Elfman.
Yep.
I mean, obviously. But what I thought was pretty interesting is Matthew Bright is Danny Elfman's childhood best friend.
Oh, really?
And
that kind of makes a lot of sense, actually.
As weird as Danny Elfman is, yep, I see it. And see what else was there. And right, Matthew Bright's first appearance in the industry was on a Richard Elfman film, and I didn't know that Danny Elfman was a nepo baby. I had no idea. I did not know his father was a director. I thought he was straight Oingo Boingo and then got into the industry.
That's what I thought too. Okay.
Yeah, that was brand new information for me. Introducing the classroom, where we first meet our two characters, Vanessa and... Oh, crap. What was Woodbine's character's name?
Oh, the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Chopper,
yes. So meeting Vanessa and Chopper right at this point, I thought was great. Also, I thought Chopper was going to have a bigger point in the story because his name is Chopper. I thought he was going to play the part of the woodsman in the in the like storied tale and all this.
I'm going to let you get there, but to a degree you are right, but we'll get to that in a moment. Oh, it just hit you, didn't it?
It did. You're
okay.
Right.
Go on.
Remind me of that when we get to the point, because I might forget that. Okay. Talking about how she's illiterate and everything like that, like you really like it sets you up to think that Vanessa's stupid, and she is. Mm-hmm. But the lessons that she has learned is just not it's not from books. It's not how you're gonna operate well in an office building. She's learned how to survive.
The very people have said this before, book smart versus street smart. Mm-hmm. For Vanessa, that gulf is wide, very, very wide. But
wow.
But she is like street genius. Can't even, but it's established in the first scene she can't even read the word cat, so.
Right, which I did have some issue with, but at the same time, I didn't really give it as much thought as I probably should have, because before, 20% of adults in America are illiterate currently today.
Whoa, that seems high.
It seems unreasonably high, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I looked that up because I was curious about it, and yeah, roughly 20% of the U.S., 1 in 5 Americans, it does not know how to read. Wow. Yet, pretty much all the ones that don't know how to read still are religious, and they can quote some stuff from the Bible and stuff like that. So when they had Vanessa illiterate but still being able to quote, well, and truth is eternal, like all that. Mm-hmm. I struggled with that, but also I don't think I should struggle with that as much as I did, because it actually does make sense. Just not something I'm personally connected to. Amanda Plummer playing the mother and being a hooker, being a crackhead. What do I have to say about Amanda Plummer that has not been said every single time anybody has ever done a review of her? She is a phenomenal character actor.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's weird too, because she's like, like you talk about someone like Gary Oldman, who can transform so much that you barely recognize him from one movie to another.
Star of Tiptoes.
Right. Oh, really? Okay.
The cast in that, you
Well,
should
this
look
is
it up.
getting
I don't
very
want to.
frustrating.
I don't want to watch it, but the cast
Yeah.
of it makes me really want to watch it. It sucks.
Yeah. But someone like Amanda Plummer, it's interesting how you can always recognize her. It's like, oh, it's Amanda Plummer, but at the same time, she
Blows
alters
you
her
away with what she does.
entire, like her look, the way she talks, the way she walks. Like she does just as much transformation as Gary Oldman does, but without any wigs or makeup. So
Yeah. No, I singing the praises, man. Singing the praises. That whole scene, everything with that, wow. The stepfather, everything that he's doing, being a crackhead. The after I watched this, I went on Facebook and I told him that, like, because we posted that we were going to be doing Freeway this week. I did not know that I was supposed to put out a trigger warning before doing that. This movie is heavily triggering for victims of abuse, of abandonment, of sexual assault, of incarceration. This, like, Matthew Bright pulled zero punches on this. He told a very, very, very real story.
yeah,
It is
that one
not,
might
and
that one
real
might
is
be
not comfortable.
on me. I probably should, because I'm the one who had seen the movie before. So that's on me for not getting proper warning on that one. I had
You kind of did, though.
actually,
You kind of did. You did say it was pretty fucked up. Like, you did. I just, woo.
yeah. My meter, though. I mean, like, and also to top it off, I meant to watch the movie again. I haven't actually watched the movie this week.
Oh, you
because
haven't?
because I decided to watch The Bone Collector a second time instead. And so I haven't actually seen Freeway since, I want to say, like 2003, 2004, which was the last time I showed it to somebody else. And yeah, so I kind of
You're gonna
actually
recognize some people in this movie that I think you may not have realized were in it.
so it's possible. But I did the point that I'm trying to get here is that I apologize. I forgot about the sexual assault parts.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, those,
yeah,
that's
to if anybody who was affected by that, I apologize. I forgot that was in there.
well, it was episode 2. We're getting into this. We're finding things. Wow. How out of her mind her mother was, and sitting there almost crying, all this, but still laughing, drugged up, and all this, and just looking at her like, "Do you still love me, baby? Do you still love me?" It's like, oh, dude. That was so real. That like, anybody who's ever dealt with parental figures that have dealt with alcoholism or drug addictions and stuff like that, when they're weak and when they're really at their weakest moments and you're the only one who's there, they're still looking for, like, affirmation.
Yep.
And it's not the child's job to provide that. But I think Matthew Bright had one hell of a childhood, because, like, how he wrote this, or whoever he used as a resource when he wrote this, they really had some firsthand knowledge. Whoa. Completely was not expecting Conchatta Ferrell to show up. That took me completely out of, like,
Conchatta
wow.
Ferrell.
Did you ever see Two and a Half Men?
The TV show?
Yeah.
I think I watched like a season of it when it first started. And
No problem, because she was the best part of that show. She was the housekeeper.
Oh, her. Yes. Oh, right. She's like a child services person in this one, right?
She's Vanessa calls her a probation officer, or a parole officer, but she's a probation officer. But when Reese, when Vanessa actually, like, turns the tables on her and brings up the grandma and then handcuffs her to the bed and all this stuff, like, you see, she did something, like, to survive. Like, that is her survival instincts and all of that. But, like she's like, oh my God, are you okay? Let's turn you around, everything like that. Like she took some measures, but she's a good person. Like you see that. And I did appreciate that they actually just left that little bit in there about her helping her out and doing something like that. But a great little scene with Conchatta Ferrell. I really loved that. Hearing Bokeem Woodbine's voice before it became epic is weird. Because he's a 20-year-old kid, and he kind of sounds like I do now. But then, like, you wait 2 years later, and all of a sudden he's got that voice that just any time that he shows up on screen, it's awesome. It is an amazingly epic voice. But to see his face and not hear that voice was so jarring for me. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Not a clue. No.
Her boyfriend.
Okay. So the guy where else would I have seen him in then? I'm not remembering what else he's done.
I'm trying to think of the specific movie that he was in. He shows up wearing like a fur coat and all this, and he playing like an over-the-top pimp. Hold on. This is the fun part about doing it live. Oh, you saw Spider-Man Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
The second Shocker.
Oh.
His voice. His voice,
nice. Yeah,
damn near should be iconic. Like, everybody should know who he is. He should be an animated character in everything. His voice is amazing. Like, I really got it. Like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, that's probably why I didn't recognize him, is because that's a totally different voice. Yeah.
Wow. Like, I loved it. The introduction of Kiefer Sutherland after she takes off. Oh, Chopper and the gun. Chopper gives her the gun so she can sell the gun, but the way we're gonna lay that breadcrumb. Crumb.
And for a moment, in case anybody is watching that hasn't seen the movie, set it up.
Okay, so Reese, after escaping from her probation officer and heading towards her grandma's house, she stops off at her boyfriend, who is played by Bokeem Woodbine. I don't want to get those names backwards because either one of those could be a first and a last name. it trips me up a little bit. And she goes to see him, say goodbye, tell him she loves him, all this. And he gives her his gun so she can sell it when she gets to where she's going to help her get established or to just help her along the way as she's trying to get to her grandma's house. She leaves, and immediately what happens is somebody else shows up and unalives him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's reaching in his pocket and he's trying to find his piece. He does not have it. He's reaching for it, and you see it watch.
Yep, you see him reach for the gun that he just gave her, and you see it dawn on him how screwed he is right then and there. Yeah, it's a hell of a scene.
It really is. And then you go straight from that over to the introduction of Kiefer Sutherland as Mr. Wolverton. Which I know you said last week, it is very on the nose.
Right.
But
this movie
very on the nose.
And like I said when I told you about it last week, when I discovered this movie at the video store, looked at the back of the box because it was Kiefer Sutherland movie. I've always been a fan of Kiefer Sutherland.
Well, at this point, it's a few years past Lost Boys and everything. Like, he's established.
I'd never heard of Reese Witherspoon at the time, but in the box she was cute, good enough for me. And so I look at the back of it, and and it said, right on the back, a modern day retelling of Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
No pretext, no wink, wink. Like, they're telling you right out of the gate, that's what this movie is. This movie, and
the opening title sequence completely gives that away as well.
Oh, right. They do the drawings and stuff like that. It's all pictures of Red Riding Hood and there's no subtlety. There's no, hey, can you figure it out? They are right up front. Like, this is what we're doing. We're taking this fable and we're making it as modern day, uncomfortable and scary as we can. Probably because that's, back then when it first came, when, it was first circulating around, just the very idea of a wolf was probably enough to make people creepy. Now we're all desensitized to that whole like talking wolf thing. So they're like, all right, let's bring the creep back. Let's add a bunch of, drug addict mom and let's see if we can't make the original emotion of it resurface by having it take place in the absolute worst part of Los Angeles or wherever it is that's at.
No, it's Los Angeles because he's the I-5 killer.
Right, that's right. Yep.
Well, I mean, at least it's California. I mean, we know that it's I-5. Well,
right.
The 5 goes all the way up, but I'm pretty sure.
Could be Northern Washington.
What I really enjoyed when Kiefer Sutherland comes in, he's trying like helping her with the car, all of this. Then the restaurant, the walk. Oh God, right. I should elaborate on my notes. I just had a note in here that called Grandpa Winky. As they're going through, they have like a few actual bonding scenes where you get to see Kiefer Sutherland not being the creep yet, but actually kind of being the charming Kiefer Sutherland that he is and can be in a lot of other things. And when you see it start to switch and you see the questions he's asking, the responses that she's giving, how I was curious whether he was actually kind of blown away by her responses or if he was kind of like digging in, being like, is this, you're full of shit. Like I was beating his ass and all this stuff. Like he kind of laughed it off. He should not have laughed that off.
Right. Yeah.
But then she tells the story of being in foster care and then the old man coming in and like sexually assaulting her and all this stuff. And then she turning the tables and beating his ass. Like that, I felt a lot of movies do terrible examples of exposition dump. That was not terrible. That was completely perfect. You get to know her life story. Or a lot of her life story. You get to know who she is, how she's going to react to something, and you get to understand why. And it is played off so much better than most other times that I've ever seen this. Did you know that this movie has a sequel?
Oh yes, I did, and I remember actively deciding not to see it because A, the title was horrendously terrible,
Trick
and
Baby.
B, Trick Baby. Yeah,
I didn't know what a Trick Baby was until this movie.
But two, it has like nothing to do with anyone in the original. Reese Witherspoon is not in it. I did not know of the director, but Kiefer Sutherland's not in it. Like nobody involved in the first movie is in the second one, to my knowledge.
Except not the character. Well, actually, it might have been the character. The stepdad Touchy.
Oh yeah,
he's a drifter. He's a drifter in the second movie.
Okay, so it's the only connection.
That's the only connection. I didn't watch it. I went through the IMDb and I was checking a lot of the characters and seeing if there was anything to do with Freeway 2. That's the only dude that was the only connection that I could see. The attack. When Kiefer Sutherland, or when Wolverton switches gears, and when he switches gears, he really switches gears. You really see it come to play. You see how he's doing it. You see, which I'm gonna praise Kiefer Sutherland because he didn't even want to do this movie. The only reason that he turned it down a few times, but the only reason he did this movie is because he wanted to do an Oliver Stone production. And Oliver Stone produced. Really? Oliver Stone was backing Matthew Bright like crazy. He was talking about him like he was the next big thing. And then after what they did to Tiptoes, Bright was done.
Huh.
We may have been robbed of a truly amazing director because of the decision to destroy his film. That really sucks.
That's a damn shame.
There's an alternate universe out there where I really enjoy Tiptoes every few years. I really think so. It's like the way that Dinklage was describing it, it sounds like it might have been that great of a movie. And when has Dinklage been wrong Like, he talks about his own projects when they're not good, and he admits
Right.
it. Like,
Yep.
I kind of trust his judgment.
I did disagree with him one time.
On
He underdog.
he was
He
an
didn't seem.
underdog,
Yeah, he was the main bad guy in Underdog.
the live action underdog.
Yep. With what's his name? With My Name Is Earl as the voice of the dog.
Yeah, Jason Lee.
Jason Lee, that's his name. Yeah, Jason Lee. Yeah.
I remember the movie existing, but I was in Iraq when that movie came out, so I missed it. And then I guess it just wasn't good enough when I got home. Because when I got home, I was like, "Hey, what did I miss out on?" And then I caught all the things I missed out on.
It wasn't the greatest movie ever made, but I don't think it was as bad as like most people made it out to be. And from what I understand, Dinklage wasn't too fond of it either. He didn't like want to do press for it or something like that. And I don't hold that against him. I found the movie quite enjoyable, and I thought he was good in it. So
I don't think he's ever bad.
no, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not assigning you Underdog. I don't think it's that good. It's not that important of a movie.
I wouldn't think so. I might, like, Kelly and I might just kick back and watch that at some point, just for fun, because you know, sometimes we're just in the mood for just a truly goofy nothing movie. The attack, luring her in, asking her, "Do you trust me?" And all this, and then her response, "I think I trust you more than anybody I ever had my whole life, Bob." Which, like, she even said, like, her.
Don't do that. Please don't ever do that again.
So I need a light over on this side. I know. Reese Witherspoon said that the accent that she chose for this was just a very, very exaggerated version of her Tennessee accent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which I think it worked very, very well. I really enjoyed that.
And it was interesting too because it's a very like even though she is someone who has obviously grown up in like the Los Angeles area, it is a very country bumpkin accent, and she's the only one in the movie that talk. Her mother doesn't have that accent. No one else at the school has it. She's the only one who talks like that, and yet for some reason it doesn't ever seem out of place. Yeah, it blends in with her personality. It blends in with how other people react and talk to her.
A part of me just let that go because she grew up in the system, and you just kind of pick up whatever dialect in the system. Because like if she sometimes you're with some people, sometimes you're with other people, and they don't talk the same way, and you learn different words from different people. It really confuses your dialect.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
But I mean, that's my justification after the fact. I didn't really think about it too much because it wasn't something that I liked it. It didn't take me out of anything.
And I think that kind of is a compliment, is the fact that it didn't take you out of it. Is that when you watch that and she's the only person with that very thick accent, and yet it doesn't occur to you the whole way through that that's weird. Like she blends it right in with everything else she's doing, and I think that is that's a compliment to the performance and the directing. That all merged together so well.
I think she performed terrifically in this. I watched interviews that she gave after the movie, and it didn't really seem like she understood the character, but at the same time, she did the character so damn well that I think I don't understand the character fully. So it's all I can really say is she just completely nailed it.
Remind me, how old was she when she did that?
She was portraying a 15-year-old, but she was 20.
Okay. So it's not okay. That's not too far off then, I guess.
Yeah, I had to actually check that up on myself because the stepfather actually does touch her, and I was like,
yeah.
During the attack scene, it felt like he was experimenting with her, like a doctor before, like traditional serial killer doctor. He's gonna try a new technique or something like that and see if it works. Because he works with these like young boys, so I took that whole scene as he was playing some stuff out, trying a new thing. Like when he asked her about I don't even know how to talk about this stuff without getting flagged. Like it's really rough stuff. But as she's discussing it, he's like, "How did you feel? Did you enjoy it? Like all of these things." One, very sadistic. He was very But two, it also like sometimes intensive therapy is quite intensive, and you have to be asked the really roughest questions. So it kind of felt like that Dr. Kevorkian type deal.
And yet at the same time, like you said, when he turns, the turn is like it is so obvious because it goes from like he's asking her the hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
It seems on the onset, especially from all his behavior. Like seriously, if the dude had not introduced himself as Bob Wolverton, we would have no idea he was the bad guy.
Not until that smile.
Yeah, and that's what it is that he's asking her these stuff. It isn't until he asks the question with that big, like
And
all
those
teeth
Kiefer
grin.
eyebrows.
Yeah, and it's like he knows he doesn't care what the answer is. He knows just asking her this question is going to fuck her up, and he likes that. You can see it. He can't even hide it anymore. That's the moment that you know this guy has been playing her the whole time.
Her realization when that fact comes to, it's strong.
Yep.
Like it washes across her face. She goes right into it. When it cuts to the scene where she's looking for the door handle and he's like, "Oh," and then he cuts her hair off. Like that, all of that, terrifying. The intrusion on the personal space, all of it, very very well done. I have so much praise for how that was done. And when she when she is so right about him, and like, you know, she's like, "You wouldn't like this if somebody did this to you, Bob," and he's his response, "Well, you know, I probably wouldn't," and I'm like, I like the honesty. I like it when the bad guy actually doesn't try to justify what he's doing or anything like that. When he's like, "Yes, I'm bad. You're right. Sucks to be you." Like that's a really good bad guy to me. I really. Like,
I'm a wolf. What do you want?
Yeah, because there's two very very good versions of the bad guy. The bad guy who knows that they're the bad guy and they delight in it, they relish it, and then there's the one who believes they're the best of guys and they're doing like the Thanos, you know, trying to save the universe, all this stuff. Those are my two favorite kinds of antagonists in this regard. Everything in the middle ground, they always try to do, like, you see people that try to do stuff and they try to make it like this, and it never works. And it's like, guys, stop trying to make a rat fly. It's not like it's not what it's made for. He is so unbelievably convinced of himself, and to a degree, I saw where he was coming from, but when he was going into it, and I wasn't sure if he actually believed the things that he was saying, or if he was really, really, really pushing for her to lose her sense of control, which she never did. She was in control of herself the entire time, and that was a very powerful character decision.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's a question as to what I guess Kiefer was going for in that character, and it seems to me that it was about trying to get her to lose control. Like that's his whole thing, is like she's not a real person. She's an animal. You know, you can sit there and claim, you know, there's these problems in society, this and depression, that, but all I got to do is say one or two key phrases and you flip out like a, you know,
never does.
like,
The entire movie, she never loses control. She goes ape shit on some things, but every decision that she makes is a calculated, and it is purely decided. She never actually loses control of her emotions. Like that scene with Mosquito. We're about there. When the tables turn on Wolverton, my God, did they turn. And it was so wonderful. Jumps in the back seat, grabs the gun, puts it to his head, and just starts lecturing. And Kiefer Sutherland did a great job of becoming a whiny little weak.
Oh yeah,
That was very, very, very good.
he's like
And
three
something I
different
have
characters
to-
all in the same body in the span of
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yes, very, 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 very good. I have to give so much praise to Matthew Bright for doing this. Vanessa hitting Wolverton in the head with the butt of the pistol and it not knocking him out. Thank you. It's hard to knock somebody out. That's not the easiest thing in the world. And having it be something like that, it's like dink ow, we're gonna get into an accident. That was so much better than the other version of how that could have went. And
Right.
I really, really want to sing his praise for that because I've never seen that before.
It makes you
Anytime
wonder.
somebody gets hit in the head with a gun, they always hit the ground. I was, and I didn't
Well, it
even
makes you
realize
wonder.
that I wanted that.
Like you said earlier, what kind of life did Matthew Bright have before this? If he told such an accurate story about being in the system and
Dude, he
being
probably he might have been pistol whipped and like didn't get knocked out. That is a really
Yeah.
good point. I didn't even think about that, but that is a very, very good. I'm on the wrong page.
There would be a good episode title: Who pistol whipped Matthew Bright?
Hollywood executives, pretty
Yeah, there
clearly.
you go. True. Yes,
Oh my god, I feel so bad.
and they should be punished for it.
I want to see that full version of Tiptoes. I really do. With Peter Dinklage's fame and all of that, you'd think maybe if he did push to get a director's cut, maybe there could be enough pull for it. And honestly, why would the studio not want to just make a bunch of fucking money to just edit something?
I could go on about that for like a whole 2 hours. So maybe we should
Honestly,
skip
so
that for
could
some
I. I
other
think we should do quite literally just an entire episode of our desire for director's cuts.
What's wrong with Hollywood? And yeah,
That's not one episode. That's an entire show. That's an entire series. That's like
okay, yeah, that's a good point.
I'd
I've
be
actually
like,
managed.
what's wrong with this part of Hollywood?
I can
this
give you a
week?"
teaser because I've managed to because I have this conversation with my children so often that I've managed to shave it down to
do you
one
got?
single sentence. All right. The people in charge of making movies don't watch movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely, completely agree.
That's
That's not even
right there.
yeah. There's no argument there.
Yeah.
The execution scene of Vanessa, I guess the execution scene,
Right.
when she tells him, like, "Are you right with Jesus, or do you accept
know.
Jesus as your Lord and like your personal Savior?" I loved that. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Is this about to happen?" And then, bam, right in the back, like right through the neck, and I was like, "Yes."
Yep.
Where are we going from here? Okay. And like she's in the back seat and she's sick to her stomach and all that because she knows that she killed a serial killer. So she knows that she did the right thing, but even though she killed a serial killer, it is still hardcore messing with her and she is not okay with it. Which
Doesn't
just
matter. Yeah.
like that inclusion is a little bit like more just detail of the fact that this is a good person and as well as a great character. Oh my god, him waking up from getting shot and then coughing and then running away, all of this stuff, I thought it was unbelievably hilarious. I could not stop laughing. This is a dark comedy.
This is a dark comedy. That was, and I was gonna say, like, I remember the first time I saw it in a room full. I must have been like 19 years old. I saw it in a room full of other teenagers, and starting right at the point where she says, "Do you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?" That was where the laughter started in that room and did not end until like you got Bob Wolverton running down the freeway. That was the funniest shit we had ever seen in our lives.
I'm not gonna say I was dying, but I really enjoyed it. Dear God, that was so fucking, or that was so fucked up, or that was so fucking wrong. Like her prayer just when she goes down, dear God, that was so fucked up.
Yeah.
I thought that was wonderful. Now, I read a note that said one of the studio executives said that there was potential for there to be a godlike, deathlike figure in this movie, and it was
Like
all
a
of
Grim
these
Reaper
things.
stand-in type thing.
More, what it was supposed to be is that this like deathlike character, Grim Reaper stand-in, sure, was testing Vanessa throughout the film, and they decided at the end, no, we're going to keep this grounded in reality. This is something that really happens. This is not something that is an exceptional thing that happens that it only happened to one person. This is happening to people every year.
Right.
So I'm very, very glad that whoever won that did. The bloody diner scene when she comes in, I don't know, like, was she just super proud for having just killed the serial killer, or was she in shock? I wasn't really sure, but honestly, either one works.
Yeah, and again, it was, it's the dark comedy. And
The very next scene goes right in hand in hand with the whole dark comedy thing. Yeah.
Right, and I've seen another version of the same joke in a straight up comedy movie that came out maybe like another 10 years later, called The Wrong Guy.
I don't think I know that one.
No, we'll talk about it some other time then. But
fair enough. But what I was talking about with the next scene, it was when Kiefer Sutherland like stumbles into the hospital, makes it all the way up to the nurses' station and all of that, and I just like that was one of those things for me. Is like, you go to a hospital, there's gonna be a security guard, there's gonna be somebody. Like, you're not gonna get all the way into the middle of a wing without somebody seeing you. That's
not true.
What? Come on.
Yep. I know this because I have delivered Uber Eats to hospitals before, and I have made it all the way to a patient's room without ever seeing a single other person.
Really?
Yep.
I've only ever gone through the emergency room entrance, so it's never been empty. It's always been maybe not completely full, but there's always other sick people or hurt people there. Like, I've never seen a hospital empty. That's wow.
I mean, I don't think it was empty, and it wasn't like a long trip. I mean, we're talking like I went by a reception.
We didn't see the entrance to the hospital, so we don't know.
Yeah, I went by a reception desk that was empty because it was like midnight at the time. And there was nobody at the nurses' station when I went by, probably because there's only one nurse on duty at midnight, and they were probably with another patient. But since it was an Uber Eats delivery, and they had the room number I was supposed to go to right there, so why was I gonna fuck around? So yeah.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, also, dude, good on you for doing that. When the introduction to Brooke Shields into this movie, I was not ready for. I didn't expect to see her. That really threw me. But when she's in the hospital and she's just like, and she's so evil and out on the streets and all this, and then the cops are like, yeah, and they look at each other like, yeah, yes, yeah, man, and they like, she's still ranting, and they're just like saunter off. That was really, really funny to me. I don't know if it would be for anybody else, but it absolutely killed me. The interrogation scene. Do you remember that?
The interrogation scene,
where it has the two detectives and Vanessa in the jail, and they're asking her, "Why did you shoot him?" She's like, "Well, I killed him because of this." And they're like, "He's not dead." They're like, "He's got to be dead. I shot him so many times." She's super proud of it. That. And it's in everything like this. And what is really
so this is after is this the person who shot you scene?
Yes. The person who shot you scene was with Brooke Shields.
That was one of the moments. There's two moments in this movie that have stood out in my head, stood the test of time after all these years. The first one was they've got him on the hospital bed. He's just arrived at the hospital. He's all bloody. He's nonstop screaming. Like, that's the weird thing. I don't know if they ADR'd it or what, but he's just sitting there the whole goddamn time, nonstop throughout the scene. And the cops are holding a picture in front of him going, "Is this the person who shot you?"
And the picture of her is so adorable.
Right, yeah. Like, they wait a moment to, like, you don't get to see the picture, they're just holding it in front of him, and you see his eyes go, ah, like he's freaking out. And then they finally cut to show you the picture, and it's the happiest, most adorable picture of Reese Witherspoon you've ever seen. Just
Yep.
yeah,
I did love that. I should have brought that up. Yeah.
yeah, fall over laughing. Like again, dark comedy, and I think that's the part we don't talk about enough. We haven't talked about enough so far. Is we've talked about the fucked up shit in this movie, but we need to talk about the fact that this is a dark comedy. And all of this fucked up shit, for some weird reason, is funny as hell. And you do kind of feel like a bad person.
I was actually going to get that because I watched an interview with Matthew Bright, and and it was actually Oliver Stone talking about this. It wasn't Matthew Bright, but he said if you watch this movie and you don't laugh, you don't have a sense of humor. Like this is not knock jokes. These are this is something that is very rough. It is very hard, and it is also funny because it's real. And the thing that makes it funny is her reactions to everything and how everything plays off of her and how she reacts. She is what makes this entire thing a comedy,
including, do you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Like that.
Yeah.
There's no reason why that should have been as funny as it was, but it was fucking hilarious.
During that interrogation, there's something that I've had some thoughts about this in the past, and I've talked about it with a few people, but the way that she uses the N-word with that detective and calls him the N-word a few times.
I forgot about that.
Yep. Wow. But the thing is, he calls her like a little whore and all of this stuff, and she responds by calling him the N-word. Now, on the same level? No. But this feeds into a conversation that I've had a couple of times over the past couple of years, where you have people that will call somebody the F word, and they're not homophobic. You will have somebody call somebody the N-word. They're not racist. Their goal is just to hurt that person. Right. And those are the words that will hurt them more than anybody else. They are homophobic words. They are racist words. But they may not necessarily be coming from a racist person. And she made that point very, very well. Because the other detective went up to, put her in handcuffs, and he asked her, why did you say those things to him? And she just said, because I wanted to hurt him, and I knew it'd piss him off. And it's like, yeah. She was not racist at all. She had a black boyfriend. She she really loved him. She had all this, and all she was trying to do was hurt him. And that was an inclusion that I thought was strangely important to me. Yeah. But I don't think it's a very important line, but it hit me very, very well.
Well, and I think, and that was something that was especially prevalent again in the 90s. That was like a quick shorthand too.
So back to this.
Right. Yes. Reese Witherspoon. What does she say about the N-word?
She says it a few times in this movie. The phone call. That is her final give a damn. Her give a damn is all the way busted. When she calls to talk to Chopper and she finds out that Chopper has been killed. Yep. It cuts right to the court scene, and her give a fuck is busted.
And I remember seeing that the first time, and I was even kind of shook, because with everything that's happened up to this point, I had forgotten that Chopper was killed. And so I almost learned about it for the second time, the same time she did. And so it's all that she's been through. Between that. Yeah, everything she's been through, and now she finds out Chopper's dead, and it's oh my, your heart breaks with her. Plus, the scene of her reacting to it, then starting crying right there on the phone, still in handcuffs. That was the crazy thing. I remember that she's still in handcuffs and holding the phone with her shoulder, and finds out that. Yeah. That her boy,
and then it's just she just kind of looks off to the side, the phone drops, and she just she does not care. Then it cuts to the courtroom scene where Kiefer comes in with his mouth all janked up and all this.
Oh, love
Like,
that.
somebody
scene.
got hit with the ugly stick, Bob. Like the way she ends every line to him with the word Bob, and the way she says Bob is the way she says his name like it's an insult is incredible. I thought that was wonderful.
Unrelenting.
Calling Brooke Shields his fucking skipper wife, that killed
What does
me.
that even mean?
Skipper Barbie.
Oh, right. Okay. All right.
And I know that because I just watched Barbie a couple months ago, and Skipper was in that movie. So that's like that. Like that is.
I watched Barbie too, and I forgot. I forgot about Skipper. Yeah. There were a lot of Barbies in that movie. I can't be expected to keep track of all of them.
Honestly, if I was sitting next to Kelly and Kelly was just kind of going off and like she's like that's that and that would be like me watching a Marvel movie or something. So I get it. I just had to kind of sit back and be like, yeah, all right. The Silver Surfer is coming to theaters soon. I will be doing the same thing. Got to give it. Or no, that's not for another couple of years. Deadpool is coming soon.
Oh yes. That one I'm looking forward to.
Very excited for that. Yes. Very, very excited. Hello, Brittany Murphy.
Right?
Was not expecting her, and wow.
I remember getting the 1-2 punch on that because I didn't know who she was when I first saw it, and then it wasn't until
this is the same movie that she was in, or year that she was in Clueless.
Same year?
Yeah, this was like her breakout year.
She looks really different in it too. Like I remember it. I remember when I rewatched it, back in the day, like and sitting there like going like, wait, why does she look familiar? And going like, holy shit, that's Brittany Murphy. Like I did not even know that. And the things that she's doing with her hands, where she's constantly like twitchy and
that performance that she gave.
Yeah.
Great job. Terrific job, and just what an incredible loss.
Miss you so much, Brittany Murphy.
She was. I loved that there was no explanation to her scars.
Ah, yeah, I know, right?
That was great. Another example of just trusting the audience to know that this is a deeply disturbed person. She gave some hints to stuff, but we have no idea why her scars were there. And I thought that was great because
do we even know why she's in juvie? I can't remember why she's in juvie.
Yeah.
We do?
She got busted with I think it was some pot and stuff like that, and then Reese is like, that you're in here because of that, and they're like, well, when they searched me there was some tar in my hoo-hoo, and so that's how they got in there. And then she was on restriction because she was sexually inappropriate with one of the other inmates.
Right.
So that's basically all the information that we have on Rhonda, Brittany Murphy's character in this. And wow. Now, how well do you remember Legally Blonde?
I've probably seen clips of the musical more than the original now, so I don't remember a lot.
Alanna Ubach, the one who plays Mosquita,
right?
That Reese fights.
The gangster chick in juvie. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, she's in a lot of stuff too. She was in Legally Blonde, and she played Reese's or Elle's like sorority sister, and she was just really goofy, really bubblegummy, and all this stuff. And so to know that she went from that over to Legally Blonde, and those are the juxtaposition between these two actors and this versus that, incredible. I think this is a movie you can watch. If you're a fan of Legally Blonde, you should just go watch the prison scene from Freeway and just have your mind blown at, like, those are the same actors. Oh, here's a fun one. The the dream sequence after she beats the ever-living piss out of Mosquita.
Dream sequence? I don't remember a dream sequence.
She gets locked into solitary confinement, and she just sees her grandma like, hi, Vanessa, and all this stuff.
Okay.
And then you see Wolverton, and his face is way more messed up than it was in the courtroom, because that footage from the dream sequence was the test footage, and because they decided not to do that because it was too much time, and Kiefer Sutherland didn't want to do the movie anyway. So he didn't want to spend that much time doing makeup. So they used the exaggerated makeup for the dream sequence to just up that and give it the difference,
Right.
which I thought really, really smart. I
Yeah,
really
no,
liked
and that's
that.
it kind of not just adds to the whole like, oh, it's a dream thing. It also kind of like adds to Vanessa's mentality of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I really fucked him up.
Yeah, like it looked even worse. I thought that was really, really smart way to
Yeah.
use that test footage. I thought that was really, really good. Um, when she's in the solitary confinement and she's making the shiv, and then she once again another up the hoo hoo moment
Mm-hmm.
for this movie.
We really need to be doing something about your vocabulary. You can't seem to be.
I just have fun saying certain words.
You know what? I can appreciate that.
Like,
Because I'll tell you what, one of the funniest things, in fact, here, I'll make you a deal. One of the funniest running gags that I can appreciate is how in the TV show Scrubs, the Dr. Elliot in that show, she
Sarah Chalk.
herself, yes, she herself could never say vagina. She always said bajingo.
Yep, that's
That
right.
was
I
the
remember that.
funniest. That was a running gag that was never not funny. And you know what? I will make a deal with you. You can get away with this if you say bajingo instead of hoo hoo and ha ha. Hoo hoo and ha ha bother me because they just lack joie de vivre, you know? But if you say bajingo, I'll let you get away with it.
We'll see what naturally comes out. That's how that's gonna have to go. Because after a few people had found the channel and I was talking to some people about it, I caught some suggestions. I caught some of this, and everybody's
Sure.
a critic. I'm gonna have to get that. But what they're gonna have to understand is I can course correct something for maybe an episode, 2 episodes, and I can force myself to be a certain way for a little bit of time. But eventually, I'm just going to fall back to being myself. So I probably should just fine tune being myself on camera. And that way, I never have to deal with, you're being fake, you're doing this, you're this or that. Because it's not acting, it's a radio show.
Radio show ish. But yeah.
Podcast. Yeah, right. Did you recognize the Black Detective? It's a I
the
don't
two
think he's
cops.
had a storied enough career, but out of the two cops, I mean, I know like
trying to
the one who
remember who
played
the
the
two
one
cops
detective played the main character's dad in Clueless, and he's been in like 1,000 things, and he's super
Right,
funny.
that guy. Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
that dude is an icon. He is
Yes,
he's
I
a staple of all movies.
should have his name here,
Yeah.
but
The other cop. No, I don't remember who that was.
that was Wolfgang Bodison, and he was.
Wolfgang Bodison.
I know, seriously.
I feel like that should be a name I'd remember. That
You'd think so. I would think I would remember that too, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've heard it. But he was one of the two young Marines that were on trial in A Few Good Men for performing the Code Red.
Yes. He's the one who isn't he's the one who first spouts out Unit God Core Country. That's his line, isn't
yes,
it?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So like
Unit
I said,
Core God, Unit Core God Country. Yes. That's
like I
his
said,
line.
I don't think he's had a storied enough career, but when I
No,
took a look
yeah.
at his IMDb, he's been busy. Like
Okay,
all
that's
the way
good.
up, he was in Agents of Shield and all this. Like he has been working.
Who was he in Agents of Shield?
Oh, he was. It was just an episode, I think.
Okay.
Like, but that's what his career has been. He's been making appearances, like all throughout this time. But I wasn't able to find any solid examples. Because he was a character in Joe Somebody, with Tim Allen.
Okay. Never
Like
saw that.
I saw that. I remembered him in it, but like that's why I was a little confused because the things that I have seen that he's in, I remember him in these. So his performances are memorable.
That's
I
true.
don't know
yeah.
why he's not as far as he is, or I don't know why he didn't go as far as he did. Oh, when she's in the prison and she's watching the interview and Brooke Shields is talking about how Kiefer Sutherland can't get an erection anymore and that part of our life is behind us. When Reese is sitting there and she is just roasting the shit out of him as that is going, and then Mosquito comes up and you see like the wheels turning and she looks over at her. First time I saw it, I watched this, I thought that she was like, oh, okay, I should not have fucked with this bitch. All right. But the second time, I was like, she's realizing that's an ally. She's realizing that she is actually an asset. That is a crazy bitch that can help her with what she's about, what she needs to get done, which comes in later. Didn't catch that the first time, but that's why I am enjoying watching these twice. Okay, Wolfgang's realization that Vanessa's boyfriend was black, and the I think this is a racist term, but it's a term for white women. So, and it's the first time that Kelly or I had ever heard that.
Yeah, I remember when I watched that. Yeah, I had never heard that phrase before either. Haven't heard it since. Yeah. Maybe we were trying to get something going because he really like, I remember like he announces it like, ladies and gentlemen, says like, write this down.
She's like, holy shit, she's a coal burner. Yeah. And then the other cop goes, what's a coal burner? And he explains
like,
it.
Just like everyone in the audience is also saying that.
Yeah, 100%, which that ain't a good term.
Nah.
I did But his realization of that is what actually made the end of the movie happen, because when she was calling him the N-word, he thinks she's a little racist and all this stuff, but then he realizes that she was dating a black man, and then he's like,
that's when it occurs to him that she was saying that just was to make him
the
angry.
Truth.
Yeah,
like maybe the things that she was saying were because she said like she didn't say I was racist, she said I was doing it to hurt him and I knew it would piss him off.
Right.
That she was being a fully honest character, and his realization that she was being an honest character is what made the end happen. Except the cops didn't have anything to do with this movie, really.
Very little, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Yeah, there was
other than at the end of the day, maybe she won't go back to jail. At the end.
Oh, she's definitely going back to jail. I'm about to explain why, because it's literally my next note. The escape scene when she escapes from being an inmate. Mosquito beats the piss out of the one lady, and Vanessa takes her shiv and she like slices the dude. Now it's funny. He's like, you didn't have to
Vanessa
kill me.
Vanessa belongs in jail. What am I kidding?
I'm sorry, but at least in some sort of like mental rehab or something.
Yeah.
Guillermo Diaz as Mosquito's boyfriend. Do you remember when they're going and he hooks, or she gives
Guillermo
Vanessa
Diaz. Why do I know that name?
He is also another storied actor, but I know him most from Half Baked with Dave Chappelle.
Okay. I never saw that. You're gonna make me watch it, aren't you?
I am, dude. It's Dave Chappelle. And here's the thing about it. It was.
I know it was an iconic film, but it came out at a time when I was not nearly into pop culture as much as the fans of that movie were, and so I just kind of couldn't get excited for it, no matter how much all of my stoner friends were.
That is fair. Yeah. I will say though, Guillermo Diaz, if you look him up, another, like I said, storied career. He's funny. He's funny. So I don't know if he tried to not go into comedy with that, and he tried to go dramatic and it didn't work out for him. But if he stuck with comedy, if he kept auditioning comedic roles, I cannot understand why I am not seeing him all over the place to this day, because he is hilarious. The people who do know Half Baked, he is the character that he's in the fast food joint, and he's always annoyed because quite literally the dude is like 2 inches, like they are back to back and touching, and the guy keeps going into the microphone, can I get an order? And he turns around, he's like, dude, I'm right here, just turn around and say it. And then like he has that moment where he quits. He's just fed up with it, and he's like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you," and he looks like this old granny. He's like, "You're cool, fuck you, I'm out."
I've heard that sound clip used
There's
as a
no way you
internet
haven't.
100,000 times. Yes. So
Yeah.
okay, so now I know where that's from. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
he's that guy, and when you see when you watch this movie, you laugh.
Okay.
And that is when it comes to stuff like that. I don't need like a great, amazing. I don't need to watch Blow if in order to watch a drug movie or something like that. Sometimes funny stoners being funny. John, after hours. Okay. We're gonna get to that. The insert shot of. I have a problem with insert shots. Now you might remember this when we used to film together. I don't like insert shots. Handing the keys to somebody and then just showing the keys in a person's hand. You handed somebody a fucking keys and they got in a car. They know that they were fucking keys. I hate insert shots. They are so fucking stupid 95% of the time.
Sometimes, and I will tell you from a technical perspective, sometimes they are necessary for two reasons.
Yes.
Two reasons. One, some audiences are stupid. I know you've lectured me greatly on trusting my audience, and I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you in principle, but sometimes audiences are stupid. The second time is sometimes the scene, the perfect take of handing the keys and the perfect take of getting in the car are two separate takes, and you need something to seam them together. That'll
give you that. You need something for mess ups or continuity errors. I get that. The reason this insert shot was there was he handed her the keys, and then she went like this with the keys, and she's like, "Do I got to give them back?" He's like, "Nah, the owner's not going to mind." And there was blood on the keys that got spread onto her hand. So the point of the shot was to trust the audience to know that it was stolen from somebody and that guy's dead. But it was so dark, the insert shot was so dark that I didn't even notice there was blood on the keys and that got onto her hand until the second time I watched it. And I was so annoyed by I knew the insert shot was coming that when I watched it, or when I saw it, I noticed it because I was paying that close attention. So the insert shot was actually even a wasted one because the lighting wasn't right.
Okay. A rare flaw for a great director.
I will say, but that, man, I wish I would have been able to see where he would have gone. Different editors, different musicians working with him. I really wish I could have seen where Matthew Bright would have wound up if the Hollywood executives didn't butcher his work. Because I get it. You put that much heart and soul into something, especially if it's the kind of film that's a message about little people and their journey in the world. He probably really cared about that film, and to have that happen to it, I get it.
Yeah,
I can see it. Right. Wolverton getting busted and Brooke Shields' performance in that, I couldn't decide whether it was good or funny.
I remember being very conflicted when I saw this last.
Is it the same thing?
Because I can't tell if Brooke Shields is a good actor or not in this movie. I'm relatively certain
she is a good actor.
I'm relatively certain I've seen her do good acting before. In fact, I think I even remember the sitcom.
She's another one who is great with comedy.
Yeah, I think I remember being a regular viewer of the sitcom that she was in that now I can't remember the name of, even though I was a regular viewer. Some fan I am.
Was that Spin City, or was that
no,
like a legal office drama comedy?
It was an office comedy
with David Spade, right?
No, that's Just Shoot Me.
Oh, Just Shoot Me, right.
And that was with Carla. No, Gina something. A different hottie.
Carla Gugino?
Is that her name?
I don't know. The only thing that I know about the Just Shoot Me is this is definitely subjective, but the best part of the movie Dodgeball.
Okay.
You have seen Dodgeball, yes?
I have seen Dodgeball
Okay.
many years ago.
The
Yes.
the goofy one is like, oh, I was watching it on ESPN, the Ocho. Yeah, we can play dodgeball. He was in that show, and he's like the guy who runs the office. And there's a clip of him proposing to another one of the characters, like, I'd like to propose marriage. And then they go through like all this thing, my house, your house, this location, and they go through and try to negotiate it. It doesn't work out. But to me, that's almost a perfect scene.
That wasn't Just Shoot Me. That was News Radio.
Oh, okay. I actually never saw that or any of it then. And that's literally the only clip that I have seen of that show.
Yeah, Stephen Root is who you're talking about, and yes, he was the owner of the radio station in the sitcom News Radio, and yes, that is a classic, brilliant show.
I will say that scene is one of the that is a perfectly written scene. Every time I see it on like social media or YouTube or whatever, I have to watch it. It's too good.
That show was on a whole nother level. It's where Joe Rogan got his start. He was in that show too. He was one of the regulars on it. Yeah, he played the technician / maintenance dude, and
was this after he was the jiu-jitsu champion, or
I don't know. I know it was before Fear Factor. Yeah. It was the first thing I ever saw him in. I know that.
I actually didn't know he was a jiu-jitsu champion until last year. Because you can't help but learn about Joe Rogan. His videos and clips are literally everywhere. It's inescapable.
I've managed to avoid them. Thank you very much.
Well, look at you.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, so it's Joe Rogan. Stephen Root is that guy's name. The reason why it only lasted 3 seasons is because between seasons 2 and 3 is when Phil Hartman died, and he was another star in the show. And the show, they tried to go one more season without him, and it just did not work. The show just died wheezing in pain without him, which is a damn shame because I loved that show. When it was on the air, it was my favorite show.
Damn. Well, maybe I should go back and actually give it a chance and watch some of the seasons. Are they 22-minute episodes or 46?
They're 22-minute episodes. It was a sitcom.
Pretty easy to bust through pretty quick then. Yep. So the scene where the police show up to Wolverton's place, and then Brooke Shields, like all of this. Wow. But when they go into the shed and they pop it open and they have all the magazines and all the
porn.
So much of it. Yes.
I mean, I did not know a single person could collect that much porn, and I've tried.
We all gotta have hobbies, man. And I bet that one keeps you pretty busy.
It does, yeah. A lot of late nights.
Oh, God.
Is it too late for the trigger warning? Is it too late now?
Shouldn't be. Okay, collect your shit, Brad. Okay. This fucking scene. I gotta get through this one. Brooke Shields' reaction to finding out that Wolverton is a pedophile and everything, and then like when she's like, did you know that your husband had mental health issues? And then she's like crying. She's like, those were children. And then Wolfgang Bodison's reaction to that, and he's like, yeah, just like that little girl that we've been waiting to see get into the gas chamber. Like, he's mad at himself. He's taking it out on her.
Yeah.
And then the other detective is like, will you take it easy on her? And he's like, fuck her. Yeah. And there's a piece of me that's like, okay, I'm with him because yes, she was helping, but clearly she didn't know. So yeah,
she was. But I get it. Before we had a term for Karen, she was the Karen of the movie.
Oh yes. Very, very true. Vanessa's quote unquote prostitution scene where she is setting up somebody to where she can take them. That was great. There was not any poor moment of that. In fact, that's one of the scenes from the trailer where like it just goes like, why are you doing this? I'm pissed off and the whole world owes me. I'm like, At this point, with what she has been through, can you really fucking blame her for feeling that way?
Yeah.
I definitely can't, because she is in straight survival mode. Nothing that is supposed to help her. Not her mom, not a stepdad, not the system, not her probation officer. Nobody. Well, okay.
The one person who has done her good, any good whatsoever, was Chopper, and he's dead. So she doesn't give a shit now.
All right. So I didn't catch this on the first viewing, but I did on the second. When she offers sex to the guy, she has no problem with it. But when the guy wants oral from her, she, like, you see it like wash over her. And I didn't realize this because that connects directly to the earlier scene about when she talks about what happened with her stepdad. So sex is okay. Oral sex messes with her. And that is a character moment which they alluded to, but they did not explicitly say, and I thought that was really nice. I thought that was very well done. I missed it the first time, but I'm glad that I caught it the second time. And then when she tells him to take his pants and his underwear off and all of this stuff, I know this is my nitpicky bitch Brad moment. Okay. And I get it, and it's also a little bit perverted, so I'm gonna have to give myself that little hit as well. Takes his pants off, takes his boxers off, and then he still has tighty whities on when he gets into the trunk. And they showed the tighty whities so hard that it made no sense why they even showed him taking his boxers off. Like, it was really obvious. So that was.
Don't remember that at all, but okay.
Yeah. Again, but that. I would like to one day make the perfect movie. So I see these things. I look for these things. And I'm never going to.
That way lies madness, trust me.
Oh, absolutely, because one of the main things when working on any art project is you never want to let perfect get in the way of good. I am the kind of person that will strive for perfection and go right past good. And that's why me working with people, it's damn near a necessity, because I will go too far.
Okay.
You can right. So this Brad, there's something wrong with you, man.
Oh, what now?
You go from the scene where she's telling him to get into the trunk and you see his tighty whities, and the immediate cut is to a waitress pulling a wedgie out of her butt for some reason. Like, that's where they start the scene, is her, like, really digging that thing right out of her butt. And why? I thought it was hilarious. I enjoyed the moment, but it made I just thought it was so weird.
Maybe that was it. Maybe because they knew it was funny. I mean,
yeah, but just to give the actor the direction. All right, get that. Go ahead. You're digging for gold. Like, it's up there, and you really gotta get it. Like, that is what the direction had to be, because she was really striving. Like, it looked like it was glued to her crack, and she had to pull it out. And it was just such a big moment for such a tiny, tiny scene. I didn't know. Whatever. I'm laughing, so that's why. I'm answering my own question. All right. The end scene. The entire end sequence. This is what I was thinking about.
Back to the classic.
Yeah, when we were talking about whether she's a moron or a genius, because they talk about her being a sophisticated criminal, but she is a complete and utter freaking dunce, because she goes into this trailer park and she's just walking down the middle of the road, Grandma, Grandma, Grandma. And earlier in the movie, she says that this woman doesn't even know she exists because there was a falling out because her dad, like, threw water on her face, or I can't remember what it was, but she doesn't even know she exists. So.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. She's going to not just go to Grandma's house. She's going to introduce herself to Grandma.
So she's going through this place, calling for Grandma, and then goes right into the door, sees her in her bed, and then goes, like, right up to her, like, hi, Grandma, all this stuff, like she's known her entire life. And I'm like, dude, you went into a trailer park. You're lucky you didn't open that door and get blasted in the face by some freaking redneck with a shotgun. Like, are you kidding me here? So I hated that. But she's so freaking dumb for, like, the things that regular people would very, very much know, she don't. And the ways to get by and survive that most people know, we don't. Like, this is a very specific character.
Right.
But damn, that scene, just her walking around, Grandma. It's like, dude, she doesn't know who you are. Your grandma does not know to respond to you. I thought that was just so dumb. All right. My conclusion.
Almost like they filmed that scene like first. Like as they're writing the script, they're like, let's go ahead and get the Little Red Riding Hood scene of going into Grandma's house.
That would make it. That
there.
Would explain it.
Like they shot that and just got it out of the way, and then like, all right, let's build the rest of this around that. Like, because it was very disjointed in a lot of ways. Like for starting with, like, yeah, she should be a little bit more sly at this point. You
would definitely think.
Yeah.
But not only did Wolverton kill the grandma, he also did the to the corpse. And wow, what a movie!
If this guy was not the bad guy enough, let's just go ahead and put that in there. Let's just go ahead and insert that
line where she goes up, she's like, "Hi, Grandma," and all that, and then that moment, like, some big ugly fucking teeth you got, Bob. Like, great moment.
That's those scenes where she's like in the both of the courtroom scenes.
Yeah.
Where the entire, like, we don't see any presenting of evidence. We don't see any cross-examination.
All pre-trial just to find out whether she's going to get tried as an adult or not.
And the entire scenes are just her relentlessly hurling insults at him.
Yep.
And there's all brilliant lines. Like, look who got beat with the ugly stick.
Yep.
The delivery, and it came, I remember it came out of left field too. Like, that was another moment where, the first time I saw it, me and a bunch of other teenagers, it's like the door opens and it's this big dramatic moment. Here comes Bob and he's got the thing on. Like, we've seen this scene in movies before, and it's always
never been played out like that.
Right. It's always like the audience goes like, oh, and there's a hush. And, maybe you get the defendant sitting there going like, I didn't do that to him. He's playing it up or something like that. But no, not in this one. In this one, she turns around and hollers loud enough, not just for the whole courtroom to hear her, but they can hear her 2 courtrooms over. Oh my God. Who got beat with the ugly stick? I really worked you over, didn't I, you son of a bitch? Like, laughing my ass off at that, and even 20 years later thinking, God, what a beautiful moment. Like, how do you watch a scene like that and not instantly become a Reese Witherspoon fan for the rest of your life? Because I know that's what happened to me.
I will say, if I would have seen this when I was younger, it would have made me a Reese fan right off the bat. I can't think of the first movie that I saw her in, but I don't remember ever not finding her just unbelievably adorable, and I do still enjoy watching her to this day.
Have you seen Election?
No. I haven't seen a Reese Witherspoon movie in quite a while. I have some catch up to do.
I think Election, I'm trying to remember where, but Election is another movie she did before Legally Blonde, and she plays the villain in that one, essentially.
I would like to see how that would go.
Yeah.
Although
arguably whether or not she may, like, she's kind of like Vanessa in this one, in very much like, to a certain degree, she got a raw deal, but she's played slightly less sympathetically in this one.
Okay. Well, I would like to see that. So my direct conclusion for Freeway.
Okay.
Not a must-see. You have to be into a certain type of film to get the maximum enjoyment out of this. I think there's going to be an ass ton of people that would kick this on and turn it off because they can't handle it. If I'm being completely honest, it's good. It is
not a feel-good movie.
It is not a feel-good movie. No. It is a great movie. But what happens when you get great stories, they're too real for some people. And that is what this movie is. It is a great movie, but it is too real for a lot of people. Like, they would see this and they would envision it as fantasy. It is not fantasy. And if you look at this and think that this doesn't actually exist in the world, you don't actually get what this movie this movie is not going to hit you the way it should.
Okay.
So for people who are into this kind of into this kind of films, I would say this is definitely a must watch for them. For general audience, watch the preview and pay attention.
Okay, yeah. So if the preview makes you feel uncomfortable, then the movie will definitely not be for you.
Yes, I am gonna have to say that because, yep, this movie would mess with some people.
All right. Oh, and we actually did forget to circle back around the fact that Chopper is in fact the woodsman in this story.
Yeah, so yeah, Chopper gave her the gun and he gave her the tool that helped her take out the wolf. And
Yep.
yeah, no, thank you.
So yeah,
I completely missed that. Watched it twice, completely missed it. All right, do you have any final thoughts on the movie Freeway?
only that I may have to take the time. Well, I'm not sure. Because I do, like I said, this was one of those big deal movies for me back in the day. That's why I suggested it. I planned on watching it again this weekend to be prepared for this conversation, but did not. Now that I don't have to do it as homework anymore, do I want to see it again? I mean, I kind of do, but also at the same time, I'm like, oh yeah, right. There are rough moments in there, and
Don't watch it with your kid, dude.
yeah, I'm not as young as I used to be. I kind of need a little bit lighter fare nowadays. I'm not as emotionally stable as I was when I was 19.
Am I more or less?
I got an emotional bum hip now, so that's basically how it goes. Like I can't do any emotionally heavy lifting because I got a bad emotional back. You get what I mean?
I get it. I completely get it.
I do have to point out that it was a chaotic day today a bit, and so I started watching The Bone Collector a second time to take notes and really dive in. I only got about halfway through though, so I have copious notes in the first half of the movie. Second half, I'm going to have to wing it from memory.
That's all right. I watched it. I watched it today as well, so I should be able to. I might be able to help out with the second part then.
Okay. I do want to point out, because I just noticed the time. We have been talking about the movie Freeway for longer than the movie Freeway.
True. We did go off into like 3 different tangents though, so I will be able to edit that down and cut those out.
All right. But that happens. That happens a lot. I have found that the analysis can go deep sometimes.
True. And as much as I don't want to have it go that long, at the same point, there's no fucking lulls, Doc. There's no empty spaces or like, as I was going through and editing last week and the week before, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get rid of any part that, somebody might not find entertaining. There's not many. Like, there's something for, like, yeah. So,
thank you.
You know what? To that point, I think that we're doing okay getting this started.
Sure.
But
yeah. Okay.
You want to lead us into The Bone Collector?
Sure. Yeah. The Bone Collector, a old school crime mystery. I had forgotten how seminal some of these movies were, and it was strange how, even though this is a movie that I'd never seen before, there were so many familiar elements to it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean that in a good way. I mean, not like, oh, this is a cliche movie. No. I mean, like, they're like the way in the opening credits scene, they're showing you like crime scene photos of other, random, seem like random crime scene stuff, as you're watching the credits. It isn't until you go back to watch it a second time and you're like, oh, these crime scene photos were in the movie. We're looking at the crime scene, So,
Yes, and
um,
yes.
yeah. And, and then how we have our introduction to our characters, um, given, a little bit, just a taste of their motivations and why, it's more than just the mystery. It's also about the character. Um, we got Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie, both being everything you'd expect them to be in any movie that they're in. Although I'll actually give credit to Angelina Jolie,
I'll go into as
way
well.
way less of a sex pot than she usually is.
Yeah,
She is a cop in this one. Like, you believe it.
her
Um,
power is in her mind in this
yeah,
character. Yes.
yep. Um, but I also appreciate that she is also, like, even though she is, like, she's recruited. So we got Denzel Washington, who is apparently this super brilliant criminologist. They make allusions to his process that sound very much like Sherlock Holmes. So they're trying to, Sherlock Holmes him out here, talking about how in his spare time he collects things to make
Kind of
databases out of
alludes
them.
like he has an eidetic memory as it goes through the movie, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So they're very much trying to say, this guy is a, modern day Sherlock, you know, but then they also like hobble him essentially. First out of the gate in the movie, he's investigating a scene, he gets an accident, now he's a bedridden paraplegic, and that's why he can't investigate
I
this.
meant I meant to look this up,
Mm,
but the opening sequence where he turns the victim's head,
yeah. There
was that
seemed
Denzel?
the
Was
opening
Denzel
scene.
yeah, was he looking at himself?
I don't think so. No, I didn't get. I no, I don't think that was him. I
The
there
way
was
the
there
the
was
way that
a
he looked at him, I couldn't I never understood why.
that's I remember there was yeah, feeling that same sense that there was some sort of reveal going on there. It was a
But I never
dramatic
did I never
reveal.
got it.
Yeah, never understood what it was they were revealing, other than yeah, I mean the it was clearly a bullet hole in the middle of the guy's head. So at the very least, we were confirming that whatever he's investigating, this is a murder, not an accident. But yeah, we never get any sort of confirmation allusion to that again. It makes this was based off of a book, wasn't it? And I feel like
I
there
don't
was
know.
a lot of hinting, like it had a lot of feel of this was something that was based off of a book, and there was a lot
Well,
of hinting to
the
things
book
that
in the movie was called The Bone Collector.
right, yeah. And I think I'm like 90% sure that there wasn't like this is an actual series. I feel like I remember hearing that when the movie
Hmm.
came out, that there is literally a series of books featuring Denzel's character.
If there is, I'm gonna go read them.
Okay. Um, Faint memory from back when this movie was in theaters. I could be wrong. But that's kind of was the feeling I was getting while watching this was that there were a lot of hints and allusions to things that are there to keep it loyal to the book, but you won't really get unless you read the book. Um, and I think a lot of that, like Angelina Jolie's character, there's this whole thing where she doesn't want to be a part of this investigation because she wants to go because she just got her transfer into
Youth
juvenile
services.
services
Yeah.
that she's been waiting for a year. And it's just as she's doing that they're pulling her out and asking her to go be the forensics, surrogate for Denzel's character.
But they do explain why she wanted off the street and why she wanted away from that stuff.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, her dad was a cop, and she definitely seems to have like they do flashback some on how she's affected by the darker side of policing, I will that I did take notes of that.
But we'll get there. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it was those things like I felt like these were allusions to her character that were there to inform, but weren't delved into enough, or I don't know. I guess I'll get to that. But let me. So, oh right, oh, so the second time I watched it, because my family was awake this time, I was watching it with headphones on, and so I had noticed in the opening credits what I didn't notice before. There were very, very slight sounds of people suffering just underneath the theme music.
Oh,
There
I did
were
notice
sounds.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice it the first time. It wasn't until I had headphones on the second time. But yeah, there's sounds of men yelling, women screaming, babies crying, but it's all very, very low, just underneath the music. Classic, like manipulation to basically make an audience
Uneasy.
uncomfortable. Like you start the movie off, you got the music, you got the images, and there's now this subliminal track you realize of just the sounds of human suffering to make you uncomfortable before the movie's even started. Cheap trick, and I love it. I really appreciate that kind of detailed thinking in the beginning of a movie. What was it? Right off the bat, Michael Rooker.
I was gonna ask if you suspected him.
I did not suspect him. I was, what was it? I get he was. You can always count on Michael Rooker to play an asshole.
He's
If you
too
have
good
an
at
ass, yeah, if you have an asshole in your movie, Michael Rooker's your guy.
it.
And I know, Guardian, people will bring up Guardians as a reference, but he may have been a lovable asshole in that movie, but he was still an asshole. I have yet to see a movie where Michael Rooker is anything other than the perfect antagonist.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mallrats. Like that's just my brain won't move past Mallrats right now.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Perfect.
That was how it started, I think. Was it
I could buy it. I could buy it. He was perfect in that in that role as that character. He absolutely was. There was that scene where they did show the actual antagonist, and he was wearing the mask, and you could see his eyes through it. And they cast an actor who had the exact same color eyes as Michael Rooker. So,
Oh, really?
Yes. So
Okay.
I noticed that, and I locked in on that because I knew that it wasn't Michael Rooker, but I knew that the movie was setting that up, and they were dropping
See,
that.
I didn't see that. I thought they were setting someone else up. So I did suspect someone and found out that I was wrong when they did reveal. So, in the terms of, the overarching mystery here, again, it was that old familiar blanket of psychological mystery movies where if you watch enough of them, you can see where they're trying to do.
There's a formula.
There's a formula. This is, things that, if you watch it a second time, it becomes like, oh, it's obvious. They were practically telling us right up front that this guy was the killer. And you watch enough of them, then you get it. Watching it, you're just like, first time you watch it, you're like, this guy did it. This guy is going to be the killer.
Who
And
did you
I had
suspect?
the doctor. You know what I'm talking about.
Because they set him up. They said he was going out of town.
Said he was going out of town. He's a doctor.
Right.
He's very close to Denzel's character, and even reluctantly agrees to help him transition to his next thing.
You're right. I remember. Wow. You're flashing me back like 20 years on this one, because I remember thinking that, and then having the theory that the doctor was doing this to try to engage Link and
try to get him
wanting to stay alive.
Exactly. Change his mind by giving him a challenge. Exactly. That was my theory too. Yes.
All about
and
that.
I think that was a deliberate misdirect by they wrapped us up in this perfect little like, oh, all the tricks. You know exactly how this is going to go. I was right. I was like, yeah, I know exactly how this is going to go. And boy, did they get me. They fooled me. because
Yeah.
and that's the great thing about it, is that it was also like, what's the big reveal? You know, I won't give any spoilers to you, but the big reveal is that there never was a clue. Who the killer is, never once was there a clue about him dropped. You thought you had clues dropped about him, but no, he came out of left field. He was in hiding the whole time. He didn't drop any clues about where he was. There was no seeing him coming, and yet it still made sense because
Worked.
that was his whole deal. He comes in saying, I have been waiting for this moment for years. Like,
And Link even said, we'll get there. I mean, that's the
yeah,
end of the movie. We're still at the beginning.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to, point out Michael Rooker, perfect asshole. Happy to see him,
Perfect.
there. And I even put down there, classic foreshadowing as misdirection is what I wrote down. I wrote down that as the whole scene where I am deliberately misled by the director to believe the doctor is going to be the killer. I see it coming a mile away, and I am so wrong, so wrong. I fell for it like a child falling for a Santa Claus myth. I did love the showcasing of all of the technology he has in his room, that for the 90s was top of the line. And is kind of
true.
and kind of is just adorable to see now,
Right, because at that time I thought it was really amazing what that technology was and all that stuff. But now I look at that and it's like, oh my god, I have all of that in my house.
Right.
Like I have the bed that, like I have
Yep.
like that like so many people just have that as just regular part of their lives. Like
A
it's
voice
yeah.
activated chess game.
I bet I could go to Google and download it right now.
I bet you. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I did appreciate that. You're right.
Yep. Okay. And okay. So here's where I start talking about Angelina Jolie. But yeah, it was interesting because they do kind of even establish, like, even though I said it's interesting because it's the first time I've seen her like not play a hottie, someone who is like
strikingly beautiful, but that wasn't the character.
strikingly beautiful, and knows it, uses it to her advantage. That has been like 80% of
Not
the Angelina
in
Jolie
this
characters
movie.
I've seen. Not in this one. In this one, she is very much, I am a cop. End of story.
And I
And
want to bring praise to that at a certain
mhm,
point when she's going after the little girl and the old man. Like
right.
that took real commitment on the actor's part to get
Yep.
in and do that. And I want to sing her praises because she was already probably at a point where she could have said, "No, I'm not doing that."
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
I
she
think
went
she
for it.
was this movie, like, this was not a breakout movie for either of them. Denzel
They were
and
already
Jolie
established.
both were. This was a tentpole movie. This is the movie everybody expected to break the box office because it had these two in it. Um, but
The full cast. I mean, Ed O'Neill, Michael Rooker, all the way down through Louise Guzman and Queen Latifah.
Luis Guzman, he was perfect.
Yeah.
Luis Guzman, Queen Latifah, just effortlessly perfect in their roles. Oh, that was so good. But with Angelina Jolie, I thought it was interesting because I'm sitting here appreciating the fact that she's not playing a sex pot for once. They keep alluding to the fact that everyone finds it strange how hot she is for a cop. Like that, like almost kind of like when the first time she meets Luis
Subtle,
Guzman.
but
Yeah,
subtle.
they're subtle, almost like I'm wondering if to a certain degree it was an after the fact, like because they cast her, like someone on set was like, no one's gonna believe someone that hot as a cop, and so they're like, fine, we'll put in some references. You got the first time she meets Luis Guzman, he's shocked to see her, like who's the hot girl? What's going on here? Like, you even got the scene where the other cop is in her house and he's rifling through her stuff and going, "Oh, I see that you used to be a model." Like, what? It's strange that
Oh,
you've gone from
right,
being a
right.
model
Yeah, I
to a
forgot
cop.
about that.
Like, like what an unnecessary bit of dialogue. But apparently someone thought we needed to explain why someone as attractive as Angelina Jolie is walking the beat. Like,
It is a little bit unrealistic.
mm,
I'm not going to say unrealistic, but the odds of somebody being that beautiful and never deciding to capitalize on it and make a few $1,000s by going and getting some photos taken, stuff like that.
I mean that's fair,
That maybe not to do it as a full-fledged career,
especially in New York.
But when
I
you
guess there's
look
too many opportunities in New
like
York.
that, then you at least probably are going to give it a try, and because it's an option for you. It is like, so if it is an avenue that you just can do, I'm pretty sure most people give it a shot.
Right.
I mean, that's purely my guess. What else?
So the first crime scene, I remember the first time I watched it. I remember this was a moment where I was starting to think I was going to dislike this movie because the serial killer puzzle clues have been placed on the train track, and just as Angelina Jolie discovers it, that's when the train is coming, and she barely gets the train to stop in time to go there. And I remember sitting there thinking, what kind of movie bullshit is this? What kind of serial killer would literally put his serial killer clue puzzle in a place where it was going to be immediately obliterated if no one found it within like a couple hours?
And then
I ate those words when we found out exactly that is exactly what had been happening for like a year up to this point, and B, yeah, that's exactly the kind of serial killer he is. He thinks he's, putting the blame on the cops by leaving them clues while at the same time making it next to impossible anyway, so that he can get away with it anyway. All the way down to, like, even if they, with the first victim, they actually do find her in time, but they still can't save her because he sabotaged the fucking apparatus. They could have saved her with.
Yep. So that was like to turn off the steam for that death event. Right. The antagonist sawed halfway through the
pressure valve, the shutoff valve, sawed through the shutoff valve, so that, of course, when they know she's in there, the steam is going to come out and probably kill her. We need to shut that steam off, so they go through all the trouble of bringing in a maintenance guy to go shut the steam valve off, and as soon as he does, the thing snaps right off his hands. And it's like, clearly this guy thinks he's playing a game, but he's really just a dick,
Yeah. And okay, I gotta remember that for the conclusion.
Okay.
Because it very much goes into that as him and Link are facing off.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And then, to kind of jump ahead there, but but that was interesting. Is that again that almost like another misdirect. Like I feel like there were many points in this movie where the director was basically saying to me as an audience member, "Oh, you think you're so fucking smart?" And he got me. What can I say? Like he really did get one over on me on that one. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that that this was a movie that was smarter than it looked in a lot of ways, and that's rare. Usually most movies think they're smarter than they are. This one was smarter than it looked. That's a rare thing.
Who wrote this movie?
I do not remember.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One thing I thought was just amusing is when they go to recruit Angelina Jolie's character, when Abigail, I keep forgetting her name, Abigail, when they go to recruit Abigail because she walked to the scene, she got the good photos, and Denzel saying, "Bring her to me," basically.
Well, and they based off of what she did at the scene when she took the dollar bill and she put it next to it, because every single dollar bill is the exact same size. So if you are looking to get a size comparison,
he has rightly seen an 8 ability in this. If this is a beat cop that that was able to do this, then a little guidance, they can be great. And that was correct on his part. But so he summons her to his place, and when they go pick her up, she's in the middle. She tells them, "I was in the middle of my orientation. I was supposed to start at juvenile services today. I was in the middle of my orientation when you got me." Her orientation into juvenile services is a literal dare presentation from high school. The dude with the freaking suitcase full of drugs.
The one that like basically told all of us when we were kids, "You want drugs? This is where you find them."
Right, exactly. This is what they're called. Here's how much they go for. Here's what they look like.
So on the subject of the writer,
okay,
you remember that? Did you watch that clip of that YouTube short of Blood In, Blood Out that I sent you the other day?
No, I did not, because you yourself even said, "I don't think I can handle this after Freeway," and so I was like, maybe I'll save it for later myself. So,
the writer of this has only written 4 things, and Blood In, Blood Out was one of them.
Interesting.
Now I know why the YouTube algorithm was pushing that movie on me, is because I've been talking about the Bone Collector so damn much.
Yep. So what are the other 2 things he's written?
Nothing I'd heard of. One Tough Cop, starring Stephen Baldwin, Chris Penn, Gina Gershon, and Michael McGlone.
I feel like I should have heard of that movie.
And 1 episode of Dream Street.
Interesting.
And this.
Okay.
So
was it based off of a book?
It is based off of a book. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be reading that series. Going back and watching this movie, I knew I loved this movie. I forgot how much I loved this story.
Okay. Yeah, I could see why. Well, and I think that was what I found interesting, is because the dynamic, especially between Jolie and Washington,
the chemistry.
it was very much like he's like half Sherlock Holmes, half Hannibal Lecter, and she's a very reluctant Clarice Starling in this, and it works.
I kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah, you see what you get what I'm talking about.
I see what you're saying. But yeah, she definitely does not want not want to be a part of this. And the part that sucks is it's kind of the hero's journey, where some people go look for it, some people are called, refuse the call, and the story depends on them.
Yep.
100%, this story would not have went the same way without that character.
Exactly. Yes. And it is an interesting dynamic to have you have the experienced, the one who kind of already knows everything, but he's shackled to his bed, kind of in the same way, Lecter, Hannibal Lecter's in a cell because he's a psychopathic murderer, but he's kind of the expert that,
I wouldn't have put those parallels together without you saying that, but they are there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's kind of not surprising, because this is very much, this movie was post Seven, post Silence of the Lambs. There was definitely a lot of looking for something to fit that niche, to continue on with that sort of psychological mystery thing that everybody was kind of chomping at the bit for at that time.
I wish they didn't stop.
I mean, they didn't for a while. I mean,
when's the last movie like this that you saw? In modern times?
In modern times? I was gonna say probably Red Dragon, but that was not modern times. That was all the way back in
I think the closest might be Knives Out.
Knives Out, yeah, but that's not quite the same thing. That is a good
comedy.
Mystery movie. Yeah, it is a good mystery movie, but it is not the psychological mystery that this is. And I think that was another thing that's interesting about it, is because how much of this movie is about these 2 characters, Jolie and Washington, both not just solving the case, but the absolute inner conflict the both of them are dealing with at the same time. Like this mystery is, and for different reasons. For Denzel's character, it's a welcome distraction to the fact that he's feeling sorry for himself and wanting to die. For Angelina Jolie's character, it is an unwelcome distraction from her just trying to live the life that she has been trying to get on for a while, to get, going into youth services as a beat cop or whatever it is. Like this movie is only half about the mystery and more about them, and I think that's why we get so much
Wouldn't
more in.
work if you had different actors.
No.
Denzel's ability to be a powerhouse with moving literally just his finger and his face.
Mm-hmm.
That's you need a powerhouse like him.
Yep.
And
Mostly with his voice. He did a lot of it with his voice, just in the way he pitched and tempered
his
and
eyes, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he
And that
really
was the thing, like him and Angelina, like when they would like stare into each other and all that, there was just I felt a lot of raw power and chemistry between the two in those moments.
see. And I was going to get to that. I'm going to get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
I'm moving on down the notes here. Yeah, I wrote down that they both have trauma that doesn't lend to the story, but lends to their character. And they're not just, like we were talking earlier about the Gremlins, exposition about how that was that was Phoebe Cates' character lending trauma to her character for no reason. It didn't help in the story or her character, but at the same time, we're seeing with these two, they have trauma in their past, but it does lend to their character. It may not be an important part of the story, but it tells you a lot about where their headspace is and why, not just that why things are important to them, but why things are difficult for them.
Without the inclusion of those elements, the movie wouldn't have suffered, because the movie still would have been a terrific mystery. I was all the way wrapped up in the mystery. I really was enjoying it. But every single second that was not about the mystery, I was still enjoying everything else because those characters, I really loved them.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And they did a good job with that. Like a lot of times you see you're supposed to care about this character because of this, but you just don't. These characters, you really do care about them. And where are we at in the story? Are we at her father yet?
Not yet. I was about to get to that though.
Okay. I'll wait.
Yeah. Well, and that it was one of the things I wanted to bring up. Like I said, the trauma that they have for her, you kind of see it because she is. You can tell when that she is not handling finding a body well, and it's who would handle finding a body well, but for her it seems to be kind of compounding. Like when she's going in to be the first,
you really start to you get a sense that she doesn't want to be on the street,
right?
Even before she ever says anything.
Exactly. So when they're sending her in to be the first on the scene to find the second victim, as she's approaching the second victim, you can see, on screen they're showing flashbacks of her finding the first victim. She is compounding what she is feeling of being the one of finding a body. And then we do find out that, oh yeah, her father committed suicide and she found the body. This is an actual trauma for her.
And not when she was a kid, while she
Right.
was an officer. Like said, was found by officer. So
Yep.
like this is a very recent thing for her.
Yeah. And so this is a compounding trauma for her, even beyond the fact that it is traumatizing finding a body. But this is especially traumatizing for her because this is she found her dad. And that doesn't, and the interesting thing about it is that it's like what I was talking about before in the opening credits, that underlying sound of people yelling and crying. Do you hear some now? Is that
Sorry. I, I thought I heard like pounding. I didn't know where it was coming from. I'm sorry.
okay? But yeah, it's the same idea. It's that underlying sound that you just barely can't hear of people yelling and crying and stuff like that to just create that sort of subconscious discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this lended to. This wasn't an important part of the story, but it created a new emotional element where you are feeling her discomfort. This is a more than just a murder mystery. This is more than just a crusade or something like that. This isn't just a story of a hero conquering the bad guy. There is a real discomfort here that doesn't even beg to be conquered. It just needs to be gotten through. It needs to be survived to a certain degree, And that's not something that you see a lot anymore. It's nowadays it's very much like character, here are the character beats, and every single one of these character beats, if they don't, like a character trait like that almost becomes a Chekhov's gun to a certain degree nowadays. Like nowadays, watching a movie like that, you would expect the reason why they're talking about her father's suicide is because by the end of the movie, it's going to be revealed that her father faked his death and is the killer. Like that's what people would expect nowadays. But
that's something that I really have a lot of problem with the movies. Like, not everything has to be connected. That is not
right.
Like sometimes the world just happens as the world happens, and the character is victim to the world. Like that's
and you can have these things feeding into the story without them being necessarily like plot points. They don't have to be plot points. They can just be there for the feeling, for the vibe. You can have a character that hates spiders just because we all hate spiders, and that endears them to some degree. You don't have to make them fight a giant spider at the end to overcome that fear. You wouldn't need to be arachnophobic to be fucked up about fighting a giant spider.
However, they do actually bring in a bit of a connection with the suicide because of where everything sets up for a link at the very beginning.
How do you mean?
Her father committed suicide and he's trying to kill himself.
Oh, right. Yep. I did not draw that connection. I completely glossed over that. Okay.
Oh.
That does make sense. Yeah. Which is interesting. I guess that kind of does make sense as to why he would give her like that speech that he gave her. Because I took it differently. Because after that first encounter in the steam room, and he's trying to get her to process the body.
Steam room.
And she basically walks out on him because she doesn't want to fuck with a dead body. She doesn't want to desecrate the corpse essentially. But I think
which just to call this out, the reason she walked out on that scene is because Link was telling her to saw this like very recently dead woman's hand off.
Right. Yes.
To get
again with the classic movie Mr. X. For that entire scene from the moment she stepped in, I kept expecting them to find out that she wasn't dead yet.
That would be what would happen now.
Yeah. But yeah, no, she definitely was dead.
Just because now, like, you have to get the audience to like squirm in their chairs and
right. You need one last scare or something like that. Yeah, mm-hmm. One last surprise, and especially when it got to the point where he's saying, like, we need those shackles for evidence. I need you to go cut her hands off. And I was like, oh, she's definitely not dead. She's getting that I thought was what was going to happen is she was going to take the saw to the wrist and then the woman was going to start screaming.
It sounds like you had a good time watching this movie because you had a lot of misdirects and that's a really fun time. That's something I like watching the movie.
No, that's, and maybe I'm ruining it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Don't believe your lying eyes.
This is not the kind of thing you don't want to come to this show. You don't want to watch this show until you've seen the movie that we're talking about. That is
okay. Maybe I'll do like a 5 minutes. This is why you should or shouldn't seen it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. It's like if you had
that'd be a good like way to either open or close.
Yeah. But that's what I thought was. But again, I was going to get to the reason why I thought that was interesting was because after they have that argument and she walks out on the crime scene, it isn't until then that he starts going into her file and where he finds out that she was highly decorated. She's got a big arrest record. Her father committed suicide. She found the body, all those things. And I remember, like, it wasn't until the second time I watched it that it hit me like, oh, he's working her like a crime scene because he fucked up. And so the only way he can think to solve how he fucked up was to work her the same way he works a crime scene.
Interesting. I missed that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that. It's a good call.
And that's why when she does finally come back, he's got that speech prepared of how to get her back on his side because he worked her like a crime scene. He got his formula down. He's profiled her just like the killer, and he knows exactly what to say to get her back on the job.
Do you even need to actually sing Denzel's praises? I mean, it's Denzel Washington.
It's a given. Yes, it is a given.
It kind of is, but you still want, like, because that moment, sitting in that bed, looking at him, barely moving his head at all, delivering all of that. My God,
Yep.
he's incredible. Was that the seashell? Was that the oyster shell scene?
That was after the oyster shell scene. That was because
okay.
they already did the oyster shells. That was how they found that victim, was already putting that together.
That was one thing that I really enjoyed about Denzel's performance on this, because when he goes into that recall mode and then he starts listing off all the information.
In the Sherlock analogy, he's going into his mind palace on everybody. Because that's who he is. He's a Sherlock character.
Yes, but it was the way he did it was like the same thing. Like his head was this way, his eyes went a different way, and he was just kind of staring off into not the middle distance, but like just a little bit beyond the middle distance.
Right.
And I loved that. Every time he was going into recall, he had a physicality that and to throw a physicality on something when you literally only have 3 body parts that you can move. Damn.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, usually when they have characters that do that, even in the most recent productions of Sherlock, they feel the need to explain that's what's going on. It's like, this is, when he's playing the violin, it means he's thinking, stuff like that. You didn't need to have that explanation with Denzel. We knew what was happening right off the bat because he did it so well.
Yes. Truly a powerhouse.
Yeah, I put in here, how often do manhole covers get blown into the air in New York? Because I've seen that happen in
every
movies.
movie.
Yeah, not every movie, mind you. We did just watch The Paper, which took place in New York. No manholes blown into the air in that one. But that was the only one I could think of. That's the only New York movie I can think of off the top of my head that didn't have manhole covers blown into the air at some point. And this movie had it twice in succession. They were in only like 3 scenes apart. So I got to ask, if there's any New Yorkers out there, tell me honestly, how often does it happen? How often is this like a constant thing? Like, when you're walking through the streets of New York, there are 2 things you got to worry about: a pigeon crapping on you and a manhole getting blown into the air. Because according to the movies, these are constant dangers in the city of New York.
The first murder scene.
Right. First murder scene. So, and then she bails, and then he works her like a crime scene, gets her back on his side. And she is very much more gung-ho. Like, now she goes into the next scene. She's a lot less
I feel like
reticent.
She gained respect for Link in that conversation that she had with him.
She did. A little bit too quick. And I guess that probably was the moment where their relationship really kind of like went up. But at the same time, like, it does, and maybe this is just me, the first romantic spark between them felt way too soon to me. Like, it's only hours after the first time she told him to go fuck himself, and now they are inches away from making out. Maybe that's just me. That felt a little too rushed to me.
You didn't realize why. She almost killed him. The seizure.
Oh, yeah.
She almost killed him when she leaned on the bed, and then Queen Latifah comes by, Thelma comes by, and she looks down. She's like, "His catheter is twisted," because she drops that piece of paper, and she's trying to go find it.
Right.
So like, and so she's
But
like
that's
laying on the bed or like sitting on the bed, and then she almost kills him. So
right.
I think that that would, if you almost kill somebody, that would probably shift the way you feel about them pretty
But it
substantially.
happened before that. That's the thing. It was like
Wait,
this
it did?
that yes, because it would that what you're talking about where she's sitting on the bed blocking the catheter almost killing him. It is
Yeah.
during that moment that they're doing like, you know, because she's looking for a little scrap of paper that she lost and they're in close proximity.
Okay. Right.
Now,
Right.
him, I understand. He's been locked in that bed for 4 years, not able to move. If any woman, let alone Angelina Jolie, got within 5 inches of me, I would have a reaction. Okay. The fact that he hasn't been trying to sweet talk Thelma this whole time is an amazing level of self control.
We don't know that.
No, it's true. We haven't seen every scenes between them so far. That is true. But
And no matter, I don't know how you, the audience, anything, but Queen Latifah is a beautiful woman.
oh yes, no, yes, and she was rocking it in this one too. She may have been like a nurse and she didn't have like, the whole fashion thing going on, but she was rocking them scrubs, let me tell you.
I yeah, I've had a thing for Queen Latifah since the early '90s. Easy. I don't. I honestly I don't know what it is about her. Just she is awesome.
She has genuine authentic charisma. That is her whole thing.
That is a big that yes.
Yeah.
Like I feel whenever I'm watching Queen Latifah, I'm watching genuinely who she is, and I am just enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And no lack of that in this. I mean, her character could have so easily been a throwaway character, and it wasn't because of her.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I enjoyed the fact that one, she was doing puzzles the whole movie
Yep.
in the background, and Link didn't need to call her the puzzle queen. Like, he didn't need to do that.
No.
But it was not an unnecessary line either, because
Right.
that is something that a friend would say to a friend.
Exactly. Yeah. And it goes to show too his observance, because she's doing those puzzles on a table that is kind of out of his point of view, kind of like a little bit behind him, but he still
Well,
knows that
yeah,
she's
but that's
doing it.
only what we've seen. Like, we have
That's
to
true.
imagine that they have a relationship, and they've talked. Like,
But he
yeah,
knows. I mean, still, like
yes,
he
yes, yes, yes.
recognizes, he observes, and he knows. Okay, we've got these pieces here that they probably fit together somehow. Thelma, I've seen you doing those jigsaw puzzles all day long.
I'm
Help me with
curious
this.
about something about Luis Guzman,
Mm,
because he had so many minor roles in the '90s, like really, really tiny things. But he also, like, all of the things that he had, those tiny roles, they were all paired with powerhouse actors.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering when Luis Guzman, like, when they figured out where, like, that he belongs in the A-list echelon. I don't know if you would call him A-list. I would, but I doubt most people know what his name is, which is really unfortunate because he's
No.
terrific.
Yeah.
But everybody would recognize him by face. Every single person in America would
Oh,
recognize him by face.
sure. Yeah. Oh,
But the
that's the guy that
name,
we've seen. He's one of those that guy actors. Every time he shows up, it's that guy. Even if you aren't someone who knows actors' names, which I don't get. My kids are like that. My kids don't know who anybody is, and I don't know how that happened. but they
given
will
who
go like,
you are, that is a little weird. Yeah.
I don't know where I went wrong. What did I do? What did I, but yeah, the
What's your next?
my next one, oh, that was where the notes ended. That was when I had to give up. I got interrupted. But let me think here. Moving on from there, I did basically stop at that first moment. Like I said, I get where it is for Denzel's character, why he would be overcome by the interaction of her getting that close to him. The fact that she kind of reciprocates that so quickly, and it very nearly, if not for the seizure, it might have turned into a makeout session right there.
I think I
That
disagree.
felt a little.
I
That
might
felt
have
a
to go
little.
back and watch it.
Yeah.
I still have the rental period on Amazon, so I can go watch it.
It felt a little quick to me. It almost
But when
felt
he said, I
forced.
remember, because he says, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped it," and he goes, "Don't worry about it. Take your time." Like
Hmm.
she smiles and everything like that, but she kind of like scoff smiles, and then
Right.
she looks at him. But I didn't think that that was the romantic moment for her to him yet. I saw that from him to her, but it
It was.
wasn't until after that I felt it from her to him. Like maybe a little bit of a
It
warm up, a
really.
little bit of
It
something.
really felt. It really felt mutual. Like he is the first to react. Yes, because she's getting close. But then, but yeah, he says, "Take your
There was
time."
sexual. You're
And
right. There was sexual
yeah,
tension in that moment, and
but also at the same
I don't
time, I
know
guess
because
now that
there's
I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I guess there's a part of me that's going like, well, they did kind of establish, like you said, with you brought up Luis Guzman. Luis Guzman comes in talking about how, he's catching up with Denzel's character. How have you been for since I last saw you? And he's like, my mom, she's 71. She's fucking this guy named Morris, and I'm worried about him. He's got a bad ticker. And they show that Angelina
Angelina is
Jolie's character,
laughing. Yeah.
she's laughing her ass like, okay,
I'm glad
she's
you brought
she's
that
hip,
up because that's
she's
something
not
that
stuck up. So it does make kind of sense that in
yes,
the right
yes,
moment, if she felt a little bit of that spark, she wouldn't immediately back away from it. She is, a laid back character in that regard. So I
which
guess it's not totally out of character, and it's not totally unjustified. It was just for me at that
sure.
moment, the first time I saw it, it felt too fast. It felt too forced.
Okay.
It felt like they were trying to artificially create a love story between the two main characters that didn't need to be there, because Hollywood does
I
that.
can give you that.
Hollywood
Well, yeah,
demands that constantly, and
nonstop. That's a major running joke through a lot of the film series that I check out. It's what do the two actors have in common? Like, what is there? Do they have a lot of chemistry? Oh, they're both very attractive.
right, yes, exactly, yes. And then I guess that's the thing is like, because I just recently saw a B story romance that wasn't forced and was extremely well done. I think that made me a little oversensitive to one that happened so quickly it felt forced. And so maybe it's just my imagination, but that was my one real problem with
Okay.
this movie was
If
was
that's
that.
your only problem with this movie,
Right,
okay.
exactly. Yes. No, this is not to mention the fact that one problem, we can gloss over it quickly because in all of 5 seconds they move it along really quick. He has a seizure, the catheter thing, like, and he comes to later on to continue the case. Like, this becomes a non-issue quickly.
Hmm.
So, yeah, this isn't something that derails the movie at all. It is
But
very much a
I do like the way that he woke up out of that, where like she's like touching his finger, and then he wakes up. He's like, molesting a cripple is a crime or whatever that.
yeah. That was
And
pretty funny. Yeah,
I thought that was really really funny. And
yeah.
just the yes, I really appreciated Angelina Jolie's character in this movie. Real quick
Mhm.
though, what was her character's name?
Abigail.
Abigail. Okay.
Yes.
Really? Wow, that does not feel familiar at all. But Lincoln Abigail. Okay. Cute couple name. Labigail. All right. Let's see.
I did not. I thought I was going to check because I knew that I was going to do that. I knew I was going to spend the whole time talking about Angelina Jolie and Denzel Washington and that I should know their names. And I thought I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. And no, apparently I did not. I did not write down their names because I'm that terrible of a person. I really did spend the
Happens.
whole movie. I really did spend the whole movie sitting there going like, yeah, Angie and Denzel, they're really getting it on now.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you have actors that are so famous, it is much more of a challenge for them to disappear into the character for the audience. I do get that as a
Yeah,
problem. However, I didn't even need to know these characters' names.
that's
Like
true. It did
it
not matter.
was
Yes.
it really didn't. They did such a good job.
They were
That information
100%.
didn't matter.
Their characters were 100% like in their motivations and their presentation and their actions. When other characters are talking about them, you know who they're talking about, even if they don't say their name, because they have such a presence.
I know we've talked a lot about Denzel and Angelina, which very obviously. What did you think about Ed O'Neill in this movie, especially coming off the heels of Dutch?
I liked him a lot more in this.
You don't see him be a serious character very often, but I really enjoy it.
And I think it was interesting because it was such a low key character. This was not a major performance. This was not even so much as a character. He was just like stand-in cop is what he was.
Pretty much.
But he really fit in that stand-in role really, really well. Like, I wish he had done more of that. I wish Ed O'Neill, instead of doing Modern Family, which I know is blasphemy because he is excellent in Modern Family and it is a good show. As much as it would be impossible to imagine Modern Family without him, I do wish that instead of doing Modern Family, he'd have done a cop show instead. I think he would have made a really, like, a new Law and Order with Ed O'Neill.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, him being in the Law and Order position, like D'Onofrio was, or
right, exactly, or a CSI,
Maloney.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, he would. I
wouldn't have wanted to see him in CSI. I feel like CSI is a little bit too cheeseball. Like,
well, that's generally okay, but that was basically what he was doing. He was doing CSI in this, yeah.
Well, kind of, but like the CSI shows are very sunglasses at night type shows.
That's a good point.
And
yes.
I would not have wanted to see him in that role. I would have wanted to see him more in the Law and Order type cop shows than the forensic type cop shows.
Right.
But I do feel like he did not do enough drama, and because he's so good at comedy, it's very understandable.
That's true.
But in this role, when he says that joke to Angelina Jolie, and she's like, "You think I'm wound up?" He's like, "Dude, if you were wound any tighter, you'd be a Timex." Yep. And one thing I really enjoyed about Jolie's character, and this is the difference between this movie and if you made this movie today. Any crack like that would have gone towards Jolie's character, if that would be in a movie today, it would be snap back, how dare you, don't talk like this, everything like that. But
or at the very least an insult back, like or something like that. Maybe it would have been good and fun, but
what I enjoyed about this is she knew he was right. So instead of popping something off, she just kind of laughed and she's like, "All right, that was kind of fun."
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that about her character. Like,
that is a rare thing to get, and that's in both of them. In her and Denzel's character, these are people who are essentially the tortured hero character, but they have a sense of humor about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Denzel's constantly making jokes of, like, you know, who called? Tell him I'm out running. You know, and you know, and she, you know, and even like I said before, when Luis Guzman is sitting there talking about his mom getting laid, she's in the corner laughing her ass off. Like, she's supposed to be this like tortured, dark, broody hero, but she fucking laughs at the corniest jokes at the same time. And that is true.
And to me, what that was saying is that the character, like, she wants her trauma. She wants to live in her trauma. She wants to everything like that. She wants that. But who she actually is the person who is going to laugh at these jokes. She is part of this community, and the journey of this movie for her is getting back to her community. Like, I really, because the end of the movie, she was once again back to being a cop. She was in on the flow, and it wasn't fully established whether they had gotten together or if they were getting together. But I liked the open-ended and the chemistry that those two shared. I could have watched many more movies with them.
No, yes, they would have been a good. I could have taken more of them as their Sherlock and Watson type approach. You know, with a slightly more capable Watson in charge. You know, because she was her own. She wasn't just following him around. She was her own kind of detective as well.
Right, and that's what I thought. Like, I really enjoyed that because the character was not just the character happened to be in this place, because what you alluded to earlier is the killer in this movie had been setting these crime scenes up for a very long time, but nobody that was as good as Link or even Abigail in this story had ever been first to the scene.
Right.
So this story should have started a long time ago.
Well, and that again, this takes us back to Michael Rooker, because that's one of the things we discover is when he's looking at those crime scene photos that go back the past year, the clues are there. You can see in the crime scene photos the pieces of paper with the clues, the same stuff that have been found at these crime scenes. This is the first time, and it was Abigail was the first one to go. That's evidence that needs to be preserved. Rooker, notably, is the one who processed these previous crime scenes and didn't even notice that they were there. Totally was like, okay, so this is where you're coming from. You think that was the setup, that he was the killer the whole time. See, I didn't catch that.
Because they were setting it up, because they set him up to be the one covering up the scenes. He takes the chain of evidence and he doesn't actually take the evidence and put it actually in as evidence. So it looked at either because this is very much the Sherlockian thing. Cops are either idiots or corrupt. Like, that is the hardcore Sherlock.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of because what's the inspector's name in
Strahd.
Yeah, and he's a dopey idiot in almost every portrayal that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So that played into that. But then having Rooker try to get Abigail off the case and trying to, because she is the most capable one. She is working with Link. He tries to stop. He tries to obstruct every single thing that they are doing. He heads over to Link's apartment at the end, and you even Thelma opens the door after Rooker knocked, and not just the situations I'm putting him, but the camera angles that they assigned to Rooker.
That's true. And at the very last second, they did do that. I didn't catch any of that till the last second when they tried to make it look like by camera angles as he approached. And I think it's probably because, like I said, already at the very beginning, I had already decided it had to be the Doctor. So I wasn't even looking at Rooker. And
on my watch on this time, I already knew it wasn't. So
right. You were looking for where the other distractions were. Okay.
Yeah, I suffered from knowledge.
Right. And I think what I saw all that is I was looking at it at very much like, especially at the very beginning of the movie, but when we see Denzel's accident, Rooker's there, basically kissing his ass, going like, ready to go in whenever you are, Chief. Like he was the underling, not just the underling, but he was practically teacher's pet. Mm-hmm. And now here we are 4 years later, he's the chief of that section, trying really hard to remind everyone that he's the chief of this section, not Lincoln. Even though everybody knows Lincoln is the badass, he's the guy who like literally wrote the book on everything that they're doing. He's trying to say, look, I'm still in charge. I earned my way
and you
here.
Do understand Rooker's position there, because with or without Link, those people, he still has to work with them. He needs to know that he can trust them to do stuff. And the second that Lincoln is involved in the case, they're like, well, what should we tell him? Fuck him.
Everyone turns on him. Yeah.
Like, so I get it. Yep. Like he plays a really, really good asshole, but in this entire movie, everything he does makes sense.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's kind of what's interesting about it, is that it is like you said, a misdirect to make you think that he's the killer, while B, also still making perfect sense when it turns out that he's not.
But that was the other thing, the eye color. If I go back and I look at that doctor's eyes, I'm gonna need to know, because like they cast that actor to have the exact same eye color as Michael Rooker, and even from when they show that the killer in the mask, who do they cut to immediately after? Rooker.
Okay. See, I didn't catch any of that. Also, I don't look at people's eyes, so that's kind of a handicap for me.
Oh, yeah, that would have gotten in the way on this particular one. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. Yep.
So, those little cinematic tricks are lost on me.
Damn, yeah, I could see that. I do. Yep. Damn. Okay, so that was one of the biggest hints of the movie, and yeah, you completely would have. Yeah, shit. I didn't think about that. Thank you for reminding me about that. I completely forgot about that.
Well, and I forget about it half the time too. I mean, that's the thing. I forget that that's normal for people to look at eyes all the time. Like when you brought it up, I was like when you first brought it up, like they cast a guy who had the same eyes as Rooker. My first reaction was, so fucking what? Who's supposed to notice that?
Well, okay, I do get that, because I get really, really tripped up on certain times because I look at people in the eyes nonstop. That is my thing, and it really bothers some people. But what really bothers me is when people look at my mouth. I hate that when I'm looking at somebody in the eye and I see them looking at my mouth. That bothers me to no end. I'm like, okay,
wow, okay.
Can you not understand what I'm saying unless you're reading my lips? Is that what part of this is? Do I have something in my teeth? Are you laughing in your mind at some lettuce right here that I can't see? Why are you looking at my lips? I don't want to kiss you.
Well, that is where you're talking. So what, come on.
But okay, so like I said, some people are really uncomfortable looking people in the eye, and I get that. I understand that. So you still want to look at somebody's face to be well-mannered. I get that. I really, really do. I'm always nervous that somebody's going to try to kiss me when they're staring at my mouth.
That's funny. That's pretty funny.
It freaks me. I can't even lie about that. I know it's a weird thing, but I just don't know why people stare at my mouth so much. Like, I don't have giant Jim Carrey teeth. Like, I don't get it.
I will say, explain.
When I don't have a mustache, though, it is weird because my upper lip, when I smile, it disappears. So if that's part of it, I can understand that.
You got me.
Okay, let's try to, without notes, bone collector.
What do you want to hear my thoughts on?
Let's see. Well, I already asked you about Ed O'Neill and your thoughts on. I guess for my wrap up before we get into that, I guess my final wrap up is,
Yeah. What the this was, I mean, I guess that's kind of what's appreciated about it, is that this is a movie that is classic in so many ways, but also subverts a lot of the tropes in very clever ways. You are classically misdirected to believing the wrong person. You are classically misdirected at what matters about a character's past, while at the same time what does matter feeds into them in ways that makes them more sympathetic without having an effect on the story, adversely or otherwise. This is a movie that really, it's if you like the genre, this would easily be in like the top 5 of the genre. This would be right up there easily with something like Silence of the Lambs or Seven. Like, and that's the strange thing, is that's the reason why I didn't want to see this movie in the theater in the first place, is because in my mind I was thinking it's just another goddamn Seven. I'm done with that. This is not just another this is not just another Seven. It is definitely in that same vein. If you are a fan of Seven, you will definitely be a fan of this movie, but they are not the same movie. Yeah.
Yes. They are mystery, thriller, detective,
character driven, psychological, but yeah, they are not the same movie. This is not, I mean, maybe sure it got greenlit because the studio was like, let's try to get another Seven, but the people making it were not thinking of Seven when they were making it, for sure. This is its own movie. And yeah, if that's what you like, then you definitely are going to like this. Yes.
Which worked for me.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Thank you for the recommendation. It was a good movie.
Well, eventually I had to get one that, like, because I was going to keep it with, like, keep some obscure and all this stuff, but I had to get a home run at some point, and I have a few in the chamber that are just guaranteed. Like, yeah,
See, and that's the thing is I've got the opposite going on. I've got most of my movies are movies that are like these are great pieces of cinema that you must see, and I've got one or two of this is gonna fuck with Brad. He's gonna hate it. But I
um,
gotta hear what he has to say about it.
I'm curious how that one's gonna play out.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are our final thoughts. Did you want to
Did
do the next time on this one before going into the after hours, or do you
Yeah,
want to?
yeah.
Okay,
Let me. What did you want to give me?
we got a couple suggestions from the audience. Do you want to hear what they came with?
Sure. Let's see. Let's hear what the suggestions are. I want to. I actually. No. Yes. Let's hear the audience suggestions first.
Okay, so we have one person's favorite movie is Master and Commander. He thinks it's the best Russell Crowe film.
Hmm. Okay. I
There
remember
is
hearing about that. Yeah.
an
I
argument for that.
That one I chose not to see because I am not into war movies. That was my. But I guess I can think about this.
To be honest, I haven't seen it. I'm not into boat movies. Like, and then there was Skeleton Key, which I'm not 100% if I've seen or not.
That sounds familiar. I can't think of what it is. I'm
It's a
pretty
horror
sure I
movie.
haven't seen it. It's a horror movie.
Hmm.
I don't
I
do
can do
horror
that
movie.
one. I can
Okay.
do that one. That is I can cover horror. I
I
really
know I just
enjoy horror.
pissed off everyone in the world by saying I don't do horror movies. But look, folks, what can I say? It's neurological. It's chemical. I just can't do it. It's not
Not
my
every
fault.
movie is for everybody, and not every genre is for everybody. That is just,
But
you
there are
know,
some genre fans that just ain't having it, and horror movie fans are one of them.
if you want to do Master and Commander for next week, I can do Skeleton Key, and that way we're keeping it fresh with our audience as well.
Okay. So should I present the movie that I picked out for you, or are you just going to go ahead and do Skeleton Key, and we'll save that for later?
No, no, no. Pitch that one for me because we can do one from the audience, and then, or we can let's talk it out. Let's see what happens.
Okay. For what I have for you, sir, what I have for you, uh, is something that, and this may be a little bit more popular, but you did say that you hadn't seen it, and so I am putting this out there for the audience. This might be a little bit more common than some of the other ones, but if you have not seen this, I believe that you should. People of America and parts unknown who are watching, once upon a time, uh, there wasn't basically the reason why marijuana was ever made illegal
Right.
was because of a movie called Reefer Madness, which was not a real movie. It was a fake movie created by basically the I want to say
The
40s.
lumber industry.
Yeah. Basically the 50s version of Moms for Liberty was who was responsible for making this movie. And they did that exact same thing. They basically made this little film that made it look like you take one puff of weed and you turn into a psychopathic violent cannibal. Like that literally was the story of the movie. Was a
Oh, I've
kid.
seen Reefer
Yeah,
Madness. Yeah.
yeah. And they would go from town to town calling quote unquote emergency PTA meetings, gather all the parents together in the school auditorium and show them this fucking movie and scare the shit out of these parents into thinking that there was just this looming like communist plot menace to make all of our kids into violent cannibals with cannabis. That was what they did.
Yep.
And then the people who made this movie fucked up really badly and lost the copyright on it. So now it is in public domain. And some very, very
Didn't
brilliant,
know that.
yeah, some very, very back in the 90s, some brilliant young New Yorkers took that script and turned it into an off-Broadway musical, Reefer Madness, the musical. And in 2006, Showtime, the pay cable channel Showtime, commissioned it into a movie starring Kristen Bell.
There you go.
Reefer Madness,
Right,
the
you
movie
did mention
musical.
Kristen Bell was in that.
Kristen Bell is in it. Alan Cummings is in it. Anna Gasteyer, Steven Weber. Nev Campbell does a cameo appearance in it. From what I understand, the producer is like her cousin or something, and this came out at like the height of her fame. So he couldn't afford to pay her to actually star in it, but she gave him like the family rate on a cameo appearance, and it was pretty good.
A pair that I always wished I could have gotten together was Nev Campbell and Ashley Judd. I always assumed that they would be a powerhouse team. I don't know why.
They would make good sisters in a movie. Yes.
Yeah. I always wanted to see them together. I just figured they would be entertaining as hell.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know why. I don't know how where I came up with that. Okay.
So Reefer Madness,
because Reefer Madness is in that vein, let's actually do Master and Commander with Reefer Madness, and then that way we're doing one audience suggestion, and then we're doing one with ours.
Okay.
And then the following week we'll either do Skeleton Key or that Ethan Hawke film, because the trailer on that Ethan Hawke film, I'm in.
Yeah, it looks interesting to you. Okay.
It really did. So I am in on that. I might watch that just so I can message that particular audience member and just, give them some high fives or something for if it's really good.
Or say, hey, fuck you for doing this to us, whichever applies.
Whichever is the most applicable. But I think it's
if there's one thing I have learned today is that people who leave comments are not always doing with our best interests at heart.
No.
This might be a trap.
Like I said, sometimes people they go on the internet and they just decide to be the worst versions of themselves that they could possibly come up with. And I don't
It's a strange pastime, yes, I know. Some people need hobbies. Some, they take up knitting.
Some people really do.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for joining us on Heist. Next week we'll be covering Reefer Madness and Master and Commander. Thanks for joining us. Wait a minute.
But we are still recording.
Hold on. Doc, is there anything that you would like to plug for today's episode?
Right. That's right. I am an independent author, and my books are for sale. Here's the thing. My books are only for sale on Amazon, which I'm not proud of. But if you're an indie author, they're kind of the only game in town, unless you have seed capital to pay for entry fee somewhere else. Sure. There are other places to go, I know, but I've only got so much. Like I said, bad emotional back, can't do a lot of emotional labor. So I do kind of take the easy way out. But if you like.
What's the series that you're working on right now? Because I know you're writing, is it 4 or 5 books all at once?
Well, not all at once. Well, I was planning the next 3 books that I was planning on write. One for the series. I'm planning 3 books at a time. But the actual series, here we go. Here we go. There
we go.
Those are the Outside World series. Book 4 just came out. I am planning out book 5 along with 2 other books that have nothing to do with the series, and I also on top of that I do have one. Hold on. This is also my other standalone sci-fi. So the series is a urban fantasy mystery series, and then my one standalone book is a sci-fi noir, a tech noir, as it were.
Real quick, I don't know if they can read that. I can't read that. What is the title of that book?
Modus Operandi.
Thank you.
Modus Operandi, a tech noir mystery is the full title.
Tech noir mystery. What era does it take place in?
The untold future. An unspecific future date. So, yeah. And the interesting, I wrote it in the mid-thousands. I think it was about 2006 when I wrote it.
Oh, so is this going back to old material that you put down and then reworking?
Kind of. I did. Well, I originally wrote it as I wanted to do it as a web series. I originally wrote it as a series of like 8 short films in a series that ended up never getting produced. And so then I reworked it into a novel, and that's what it was. And so I originally wrote it in like 2006 as a sci-fi web series, low budget sci-fi web series. And then I published the novel version of it in like 2011. So
Okay.
this is older material. So, it's sci-fi circa the 2000s.